One of the most profound movements and one of the first real social movement in American history was all about slavery, and that's labor. And it was about creating a different kind of democracy, different kind of way of thinking about the economy. And I think these battles aren't over. The African American portion of American wealth as a whole is 3% today. And the last time it was 3% was in 1868, 3 years after slavery. African Americans going back to before the Civil War, and the earliest African American spokespersons and writers and leaders like Frederick Douglass and others argued that the fundamental feature of the American economy was dehumanization. And they also argued that you can't have a democratic constitution and an economic system that degrades and exploits people. Many of the radical Republicans who fought for the Civil War and in the Civil War believed the same thing. I think the true intent of the 13th Amendment wasn't just to eliminate chattel slavery. It was to eliminate all forms of economic oppression and create what we would now call living wages for everybody. I think that was the true intent. But these things were overthrown. After the Civil War, there was a counter-revolution, Lincoln's assassination, the destruction of Reconstruction. We got segregation, which wasn't just about making white people feel superior, it was about a cheap labor force, which persisted. The 1963 March on Washington, where everyone sees Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. Well, King wasn't head of that march. A. Philip Randolph was, the first black trade union president. The demand of the march was for jobs and freedom. Jobs came even before freedom. That sort of dream of a new kind of economy was tightly connected with thinking about voting rights and a new kind of politics. And when African Americans said we refuse to work as basically semi-slave laborers with no rights and no voting rights and no protections, and my generation said we're not going to do that work that our parents did, then employers started bringing undocumented immigrants into the country to work with no rights and no protections. And when the government said, well, what are we going to do with all these young folks like me who don't want to do this kind of semi-slave work? They didn't reform the economy. They said, let's lock them up. And we got mass incarceration. And so I think all of these things are related to our history. All of these things are part of the challenge of changing the system. And the system connects these things.
This is why you took a second job. Why you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. Why you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown,
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It's your boy, Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. Here we go on a Thursday, February 4th, 2016. Bill is out on doing that book promotion. Buyer's Remorse is out now. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at BillPressShow.com. You can get it in your favorite bookstore, however you want to do it. If you do buy it at BillPressShow.com, he'll sign it, personalize it, however you want. But he's out there doing that book thing. He's going to be here tomorrow. A rare treat. Bill Press on a Friday.
A hallelujah.
A Hallelujah Friday is on tap for tomorrow. So you're stuck with me for one more day. But have no fear. I have surrounded myself with wonderful, engaging content and goodness, not unlike the way that a donut fills an empty, vacuous hole with wonderful deliciousness. That is what I am here to do for you today on a Thursday, and boy, do we have so much to talk about. It was a sad day for the Republicans yesterday. They lost a couple of heavy hitters. Rand Paul dropped out of the race yesterday. And also Rick Santorum dropping out of the race yesterday. You know what I find fascinating about this stuff? We're going to go around. We're going to say hello to everybody here in just a second. But you know the thing that I find fascinating? Rick Santorum is like the definition of an also-ran, right? Like not even, he was nearly dead last in Iowa, a state that he won 4 years ago. And he dropped out, and nobody cares. Nobody cares until he was like, well, I'm endorsing Marco Rubio. And everyone's like, oh, Marco Rubio got the Rick Santorum endorsement. Woo, boy. What a huge.
I was the second Pennsylvania senator yesterday that endorsed Marco Rubio.
Good point. No, like, why does anybody care? Rick Santorum got like 1% in Iowa.
Yeah, and Rubio's getting all the endorsements. Like,
here's the one thing that I think is halfway entertaining about the fact that Rick Santorum endorsed Marco Rubio is when you look at who is making the play for the evangelicals in the race, it's who? It's Ted Cruz, right? So if you're going to have the other leading evangelical in the race and get an endorsement from the other most notorious evangelical in the race, how do you think that would work out? You would just assume Rick Santorum would endorse Ted Cruz, but it's funny he endorsed Marco Rubio because Ted Cruz is the most unlikable person who was ever born.
Bar none.
Bar none. He's unlikable, and he's a fake, he's a phony, he's a fraud. And that's why a guy like Rick Santorum, who I believe is genuine, I think he's like one of the worst people ever, but he genuinely believes in the GBICs and like carries those values, right? Like you would assume that he would endorse Cruz, but no. So we say farewell to those two losers, and it gives us more to talk about today here on the Bill Price Show. Again, my name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill today. Running the board for us this morning is Jamie Benson. Hello, Jamie.
Happy Thursday, Peter.
Happy Thursday all day long. Our phone number is 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Call that number, and you will be one of the lucky, privileged people to talk to Ray Rogers, a ray of sunshine on an otherwise bleak Thursday morning. It's gross and foggy and rainy out, so give us a call. And, of course, we are streaming live video at youtube.com/TawkrTV, TAWKR-TV. And you can watch us on Free Speech TV and DirecTV or your Dish Network or your Roku box. Shout out Roku. Jamie, I want to get the Bernie clip, because the very last clip you played, because there was a Democratic forum last night, not a debate. They each get their own time to sort of sit down. And one of my favorite things is that Bernie Sanders a couple years ago put out a folk album, which is him just like slowly talking folk music, right? He doesn't sing.
This land is my land.
This land is your land. This land is my land. And so Anderson asked him about it last night, and Bernie owned up to the fact that it's horrible.
If you're looking at a president who can carry a tune, I'm not the guy. I hope I have other attributes, but singing is not one of them. It's the worst album. Actually, it's selling very well because people are buying it. It's the worst album ever recorded. People can't believe how bad it is.
What do you think the money for that goes? Do you think the money for that goes right back into the campaign?
Probably.
Yeah.
Look, Anderson, I'm going to sing for you now. I'm going to sing a solo. I'm going to sing a solo. You can't even hear it. You know what I'm saying? Folks. 11 minutes past the hour.
I'll allow it.
Thank you. 11 minutes past the hour. Lots of big show coming up. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Jamie Benson.
Just a couple of other stories for you on this Thursday morning. Thursday already. Hey, let's take a quick look around the National Basketball Association because there was a lot of heavy scoring last night in the league.
Pause.
Take a quick...
Lots of heavy scoring.
No. Take a quick look at some of the scores from last night. The Hawks just obliterated the Philadelphia 76ers 124-86.
Good God.
The Cavaliers lost to the Hornets, believe it or not, 106-97. Celtics 102-95 over the Pistons. Kevin Durant hits a game winner in Oklahoma City to propel the Oklahoma City Thunder over the Orlando Magic 117-114. But the big story was right here in Washington, D.C.
Oh, man.
The best player on the planet, Steph Curry, scored 51 points. Believe it or not, that was not even Steph's season high.
This guy's insane.
Steph scored 53 points back in October against the New Orleans Pelicans, and his career high came last year against the New York Knicks at 54 points. Also, John Wall in that game, of course, the Warriors did win, scored 41 points. Kevin Durant had 37. Victor Oladipo for the Magic, 37. LaMarcus Aldridge from the Spurs, 36. So,
LaMarcus.
You had a good night if you were an NBA fan last night.
This Steph Curry thing, man, I'm telling you, this is like watching Jordan. It is like watching Jordan.
A lot of people are saying that we might be turning the corner soon. Better than.
Hot take of the day. I don't think LeBron ever really lived up. Look, LeBron is a very, very good basketball player, and he, at a time, was the best basketball player in the league. I don't think LeBron ever took it to, like, the stratosphere, right? He's a very good player, don't get me wrong. Right. But Steph Curry is doing things that we have not seen since Michael Jordan.
No.
I mean, he's insane.
He's nuts.
And he's way more well-rounded. And you look at the guy, he looks like a runt.
Yeah.
You know? Especially compared to LeBron.
It looks impossible.
He's a beast.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Clarksville, Indiana, to a Bass Pro Shop.
Hello, Clarksville. You ever been to one of these Bass Pro Shops?
No.
I can tell you, I love them.
I've been to LL Bean, but LL Bean is a much classier
different. Totally
Bass
different.
Pro Shop.
It's like if LL Bean is Target, Bass Pro Shop is Kmart.
So here's the store policy at this Bass Pro Shop in Clarksville, Indiana, right? If you want to bring your gun in, which happens quite a bit.
Sure.
If you want to get it serviced, you have to unload and put a trigger lock on the firearm. A gentleman that walked into the Bass Pro Shop yesterday in Clarksville did not do that. He attempted to unload his weapon as he walked in and accidentally shot himself in the foot.
God.
The director of communications for Bass Pro said, quote, the incident took place outside the entry turnstiles while waiting for a greeter to provide him with a trigger lock to clear his firearm before entering the store. Shot himself in the toe and received first aid. He will survive.
They sell guns in these Bass Pro Shops, right? I mean, it's like an outdoorsy store.
They sell guns in Walmart.
Yeah. So what a crazy story. Yeah.
Sad news for fans of the Subway $5 footlong. It's been almost 10 years now, but Subway has announced those days, the $5 footlong, are now over.
No kidding.
Yeah. They announced on Tuesday they'll have a similar deal, but maybe this is something having to do with inflation. It'll now be $1 extra.
So the $6 footlong.
Does that sound catchy to you?
$6 footlong? No, it doesn't have the catchy as the $5.
No.
$5 footlong is just part of, like, the American lexicon.
Yeah. Outside of inflation, we may have another hint as to why they had to bump up the price. They've been seeing some slowing sales recently. You wonder why?
I bet Jared Fogle.
Jared Fogle. Yeah, he sentenced to 15 years in prison thanks to that child porn, horrible. I don't even want to get into it. So Subway didn't really put out too much outside of just saying, yep, $5
$6
footlong's over.
Look, why are you going to eat Subway? They make sandwiches.
I grew up a couple years ago, and I said I can't step foot into a Subway.
If you can't put meat on bread, right, at home, then I can't help you.
Well, okay. Now
I get like McDonald's or Burger King or whatever. You don't have the time to go get a burger, grill a burger. No. But it's like cold cut sandwiches.
We're gonna start another controversy on the show this morning. We're gonna go from Chick-fil-A to Jimmy John's. Jimmy John's has the best subs that you can get at a quick service chain anywhere in America.
I've never had a Jimmy John's.
You're missing out.
All right.
He has terrible politics. But just like Chick-fil-A,
let me ask you this:
delicious subs.
Do they do a hot sandwich? Is that their thing, or is it like a?
No, it's cold.
See, if I'm gonna get a cold cut, it's a kid's lunch, is what it is. It's a cold cut sandwich.
It's about the bread, though.
It's a ham and cheese.
It's about the bread.
It's like a ham and cheese. You can't make a ham and cheese sandwich.
We're just gonna.
Can't make a ham and cheese sandwich at home. That's what I make for my kids. I'm not gonna send them to Subway or Jimmy John's. I just make them one. I mean, bread, meat, cheese, bread.
Sounds so simple, Peter.
I'm
so wrong.
I gotta go pay $6 for that now?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do that.
Let's open the Jimmy John's hotline.
What if you got bread and put a grilled Chick-fil-A nugget on it, and then see, that's not a sandwich either.
Well, now you're talking.
Sandwich. All right, let's get into the politics of yesterday, because it was really quite a day yesterday. We are full blown into the season, y'all. Like, first Iowa, New Hampshire's coming up. Democratic debate. We've got a town hall. We've got a debate coming up. We've got so much stuff. I just want to kind of go round robin here really quickly, because to me, there's a fascinating story brewing between Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. And Jamie, follow me around on the audio here a little bit, because Donald Trump didn't tweet for a while after losing the Iowa caucuses, but he finally came through and delivered that fresh Trump that we all crave with those tweets. And he started out firing on all cylinders and accused Ted Cruz of voter fraud in Iowa. In fact, he doubled down on it yesterday when he was speaking in Arkansas, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, that voter fraud. You know, these politicians are brutal. They're brutal.
So there are a couple of things at play here, and I'm just going to go right off the bat and say Donald Trump actually kind of has a point here when he talks about voter fraud, because there was definitely some dirty pool at play with Ted Cruz. First of all, Ted Cruz and his campaigns they were the first ones to sort of push out there that Ben Carson was dropping out of the race. Now, it wasn't explicitly said, we know that Ben Carson is dropping out of the race, but they're the ones that leaked the story that he was going back to Florida. And they didn't say he was going back to get clothes or to regroup. They just said he's going back to Florida. And the assumption and the way that some people ran with it was that he's going back to Florida because he's dropping out of the race. The other thing is, there are these issues of these voting violation tickets that the Ted Cruz campaign mailed to the citizens of Iowa, sort of, not shaming isn't the right word, but scaring them into voting. It's these voter violation cards is the way that he put it together. And it used real names, real addresses of real people in Iowa, and saying, your neighbor, Jack Johnson from down the way at 321 Fake Street did not vote, and he got an F, and he's got a voter violation card. Don't be like your neighbor Jack. You need to go vote. Now, the person in charge of the elections in Iowa had to come out and say, this is bunk, this is BS, there's no such thing. We don't have mandatory voting in this country. So it's definitely dirty tricks. It's definitely dirty games that Ted Cruz played. So, I don't want to necessarily say that Donald Trump would have won if it wasn't for these tricks. But Donald Trump has a point in bringing it out and saying, Ted Cruz, this guy who is Mr. Forthcoming, righteous God warrior, he got into some dirty tricks. And there's just no two ways about it. Trump also going in hard on Ted Cruz, calls him, this is the one where he talks about how he contributed to Obamacare.
Justice Roberts approved Obamacare twice when it should have been rejected. His vote got it over the top. Ted Cruz did that. Ted Cruz gave us Obamacare.
Even the liberal Ted Cruz got in on that Obamacare action. And Ted Cruz sort of going in on Donald Trump, calling him the Twitterer-in-chief.
I wake up every day and laugh at the latest thing Donald has tweeted because he's losing it. Look, we need a commander-in-chief, not a Twitterer-in-chief.
Yawn. Ted Cruz is the least... what are you people thinking voting for Ted Cruz? He's the least inspiring person I think I've ever heard speak. He's just horrible. And I've got news for you. Ted Cruz ain't going to win a whole lot of other primaries. Like, I think New Hampshire is over and done with for Donald Trump. Of course, I could be wrong. But I think New Hampshire is over and done with for Donald Trump. Ted Cruz thinks he can win in South Carolina. The only way Ted Cruz is going to win in South Carolina is if he loads up all those hayseeds from Iowa and brings them to South Carolina to vote for him again. 22 minutes past the hour. Let's talk a little bit about the Republican infighting. The Donald Trump versus Ted Cruz. 866-55-PRESS is our phone number. 866-557-7377. You know I can't do this show without you. Got to hear from you. 866-557-7377. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press today. Stay tuned.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Today, in this country, we are having a conversation about police violence, the killing of black men, and what all that means. It is sad that this is happening and that every day there's a new incident to cause us to keep thinking about it and talking about it. But it is extraordinary that the American people are having to deal with this every day, whether you're watching CNN or MSNBC, Fox, or ABC News. All the news channels are talking about police violence and what does that mean against black people. Many people probably look at that, certainly have looked at it in the past, and they have said that these poor black men are doing bad things, and that's why they are ending up in confrontations with police without any understanding of their lives of these poor black young men. Part of what has been going on for decades is that poor black people live in communities that suffer from hyper-surveillance of the police. The police are more likely to be in their communities. The police are more likely to arrest them. The police are more likely to stop them even if they're not doing anything. And that is what is so hard for the American people to believe, that you would get stopped and searched and arrested by the police and not doing anything. But this is starting to come out as people are telling the stories over and over again. But this has been the condition, this hyper-surveillance by police, making it more likely for people to get a record, to be known by the police, and then once they get in the system, it is almost impossible to get out because of the whole system of being on parole and missing an appointment or fraternizing with a person who has a criminal record, getting you right back in the jail, and then going back again and again and again. This is coming to be seen by the American people in a way that it has never been seen before. But why are people in these communities in the first place? That's getting peeled away. People are there because of housing discrimination. They are there because this is the only place where affordable housing can be found. They are there because that's where their families live, and people are drawn to being in communities where they are comfortable. The combination keeps people in these low-income communities where they are an easy target for hyper-surveillance and then everything that comes from it. And so as we think about these issues, we have to understand that while you as an individual in this society, as a white individual, you may not carry personal racism, but that does not keep the system from operating in a racist way.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. Republican infighting. Donald Trump accuses Ted Cruz of stealing the election in Iowa, calls it voter fraud. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Let's go to Dave in Detroit, Michigan. What's up, Dave?
Oh, it's just a beautiful day in Detroit.
I believe it. What's poppin', man? What's your take?
Oh, nice coming down at the same time.
What's your take on this? We're real tight on time here. What's up?
I think Donald Trump, his voter base, I think, is starting to get tired of the same old shtick, of the same old. I think people are starting to see that he's just, he's just a circus barker, just somebody, putting out phrases that he doesn't have true conviction on. And he doesn't have any substance. I mean, you saw. I noticed yesterday there was an 8-point drop over the last month of nationwide people that were, and that's a significant drop. I mean,
it is. It's absolutely a significant drop, and that's the real question. Can he actually turn his popularity into votes? And I think New Hampshire is the first real test for that. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Across from me at the kitchen table, my mother smiles over red wine that she drinks out of a measuring glass. She says she doesn't deprive herself, but I've learned to find nuance in every movement of her fork, in every crinkle in her brow as she offers me the uneaten pieces on her plate. I've realized she only eats dinner when I suggest it. I wonder what she does when I'm not there to do so. Maybe this is why my house feels bigger each time I return. It's proportional. As she shrinks, the space around her seems increasingly vast. She wanes while my father waxes. His stomach has grown round with wine, late nights, oysters, poetry, a new girlfriend who was overweight as a teenager, but my dad reports now she's crazy about fruit. It was the same with his parents. As my grandmother became frail and angular, her husband swelled to red, round cheeks, rotund stomach, and I wonder if my lineage is one of women shrinking, making space for the entrance of men into their lives, not knowing how to fill it back up once they leave. I have been taught accommodation. My brother never thinks before he speaks. I have been taught to filter. How can anyone have a relationship to food, he asks, laughing, as I eat the black bean soup I chose for its lack of carbs. I want to say we come from difference, Jonas. You have been taught to grow out. I have been taught to grow in. You learn from our father how to commit, how to produce, to roll each thought off your tongue with confidence. You used to lose your voice every other week from shouting so much. I learned to absorb. I took lessons from our mother in creating space around myself. I learned to read the knots in her forehead while the guys went out for oysters. And I never meant to replicate her, but spend enough time sitting across from someone and you pick up their habits. That's why women in my family have been shrinking for decades. We all learned it from each other, the way each generation taught the next how to knit, weaving silence in between the threads, which I can still feel as I walk through this ever-growing house. Skin itching, picking up all the habits my mother has unwittingly dropped, like bits of crumpled paper from her pocket on her countless trips, from bedroom to kitchen to bedroom again. Nights I hear her creep down to eat plain yogurt in the dark, a fugitive stealing calories to which she does not feel entitled. Deciding how many bites is too many, how much space she deserves to occupy. Watching the struggle, I either mimic or hate her, and I don't want to do either anymore, but the burden of this house has followed me across the country. I asked 5 questions in genetics class today, and all of them started with the word sorry. I don't know the capstone requirements. I don't know the capstone requirements for the sociology major because I spent the whole meeting deciding whether or not I could have another piece of pizza. A circular obsession I never wanted, but inheritance is accidental. Still staring at me with wine-soaked lips from across the kitchen table.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To
not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
He's not running for president, but he will shake hands and kiss babies. It's the Bill Press Show, your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election.
Hey now, it is the Bill Press Show, 33 minutes past the hour. We got lots of show left to go today, man. There's just so much stuff to get into, to cover, to go through. We're talking about the Ted Cruz versus Donald Trump's. We had the Democratic Forum last night. We're going to talk about that here in a second. I didn't talk about guests at all today, but we've got some good ones coming up. In the final hour of the program, we're going to talk about the Super Bowl, but not in the way that you think we're going to talk about it. Things have changed in the way that we view and attend sporting events, and we're going to talk about it with a reporter for the International Business Times about how things have changed technologically for those of us who experienced the big game. Plus, in the final hour, we'll be talking to Pema Levy, politics reporter for Mojo, Mother Jones. And at the top of the next hour, we'll be talking to a very close personal friend of mine, a conservative talk show host and classic American gas bag, Michael Graham, who you've heard on this show before every now and then. A guy I used to produce for Michael back in my very first job as a producer, by the way, was for Michael Graham. So you'll be able to get some stories out of him, maybe, about how excellent I was even as a young man.
I have my questions ready.
About how excellent I was even as a young man, Jamie.
Not the questions I'm going to ask.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Meanwhile, we're talking about Donald Trump versus Ted Cruz. Donald Trump throwing some very heavy allegations out there, saying that Ted Cruz committed voter fraud in Iowa. And there's a whole, Ted Cruz shot back. They're really going at each other. Two guys who claim to call each other friends. They both said they're very friendly with each other. Rose in Ligonier, Indiana. Hello, Rose.
Hi, morning, guys.
Hello, my dear. What's your take on this?
My take is the Republicans have been praying for someone to take out Cruz and Donald. Mm-hmm. It's not a matter of who's going to take each other out. It looks to me like they're going to take each other out. This is what the establishment wanted, But hey, they're taking each other out.
No, I mean, one of the things that we talk about a lot on this show is that the establishment always wins, right? In one way or another, the establishment always comes out on top. That's what happened with John McCain. That's what happened with Mitt Romney, right? Nobody wanted Mitt Romney to be the nominee 4 years ago. Republicans didn't want Mitt Romney. Republicans were actively sort of revolting against Mitt Romney. But at the end of the day, he's the establishment candidate, and they just sort of sucked it up and swallowed their pill and moved on. But now you've got two anti-establishment candidates, Donald Trump and Ted Cruz, who are the two leading contenders. I don't think there's any other way to put it. And so that will be an interesting thing to see whether or not they can actually pull this off. Thank you for the calls, 866-55-PRESS. Keep them coming. Love to hear from them. We're going to go to Twitter very quickly because Jim Irwin weighing in. He takes issue with the fact that I compared Steph Curry to Michael Jordan. He says, Curry comparison with MJ? Come on, man. I'm not saying necessarily that, he is as good as Michael Jordan. But every generation has their just dominant superstar, right? It is Steph Curry, and Steph Curry is putting up Jordan-esque numbers. I don't know who's going to stop him this year, right?
No one. I mean, here's the thing.
They're freakishly good.
They're two different types of players, in my opinion. I think Steph is a far better shooter than Jordan ever was.
Yeah.
But Jordan was a more physical player.
Yeah.
Could argue maybe he was a better defender.
Yeah. Not always the case, by the way. He got better as a defender as he got older.
No. And the other thing, Steph, you could also argue, has a better supporting cast right now.
Okay.
Draymond Green had another triple-double last night.
This is something. See, that's the thing. This is something I want to talk about, right? Everybody talks about the greatness of Kobe and the greatness of these huge scorers, right? Scoring a lot of points in the NBA is a very, very hard thing to do, but doesn't always win you games. Look at James Harden, who's last season specifically putting up 40 points just about every night. And they're terrible. Look at Kevin Durant, right? The Thunder can't make it. I mean, they can't win playoff games, right? They win some games. They're good. They're a good team.
Right.
But you got a person who scores a lot of points doesn't guarantee that you're going to be a good basketball team. You could tell I'm a Spurs fan because I like players who are more fundamentally sound. Steph can pass, he can defend, he can shoot. He's got all kinds of stuff. Also from Twitter, Jim weighing in, says, Peter is a man of the people, not falling for the sandwich tyranny of Jimmy John's or Subway, because we did a story about Subway to get rid of their $5 footlong. And I'm just, look, Jamie, I know you and I disagree, and I'm not putting you on blast or anything. I'm just saying, everybody who talks about how great Subway is, or Jimmy John's, or is Quiznos even a thing? It's you make that for your kids. Jamie says how much he loves Jimmy John's. So I go to Jimmy John's. This is what I see at Jimmy John's, right? This is their sandwich menu. Number 1, ham and provolone cheese with lettuce, tomato, and mayonnaise. Oh, my God. What culinary treasures await me at Jimmy John's? Let's go down. Next thing on the menu, roast beef with yummy mayo, lettuce, and tomato. You can buy that at the store. Come on. I'm just saying, Jamie, you can buy that at the store. Number 4 on the list, fresh sliced turkey breast with lettuce, tomato, and mayonnaise. Come on, just go make that. What am I going to do? I'm going to go pay $8 for that sandwich?
It's not $8. They're close to $8.
It's not far off. It's not far
yes,
off.
you are, because it's the bread. It comes down to the bread. I'm not having this argument anymore.
No, I'm not arguing. I'm just making a point here. Vegetarian. Layers of provolone cheese with avocado, sliced cucumber, lettuce, tomato, and mayo. Truly a gourmet sub, not for vegetarians only. Peace, dude. That's how they describe it on their website. A gourmet sub. What do you got? You got avocados, you got cucumbers, lettuce, tomato, and mayonnaise. I could buy all of that at a bodega. That's all I'm saying. Go get some good bread from a bakery. Make a sandwich.
What if I don't have time to make a sandwich?
What, you don't have time to slap a bunch of things on bread? It takes 30 seconds to make a sandwich.
I'm a busy person.
MTV, my time is valuable.
That's right.
Make a sandwich. Go buy a sub. An Italian cold cut sub, different story, by the way. Just want to point that out.
Now, don't you come for my main Italian.
No. Different story. I will travel for a good Italian sub, right? Like, that's something you can't recreate. You got to get the proper, like the oil, all the meats. You got to have the right meats, right? Like, that's a thing. We're talking about turkey and ham and roast beef here. That's what I'm talking about. Let's go to Gene. Gene, the dancing machine from Florida. What's up, Gene?
Hey, I'm really glad you got into this. I'm going to touch on two things real quick.
I think we're talking about Trump and Cruz, by the way, not the sandwich debate. Are we talking about the sandwich debate? Go ahead.
No, we're talking about sports here.
Oh, sports. Yeah. I'm here for this, Gene. Let's do it.
We yesterday afternoon, because I catch your third hour in the afternoon.
Yes.
And you guys were talking about Peyton Manning and legends and Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And he brings up, I can't even think of his name right now. Where was Derek Jeter in the discussion?
Did he mention Jeter? I thought he mentioned Jeter.
No,
Travis.
He mentioned the guy that played third base. I
guess he mentioned A-Rod and not.
He didn't mention Jeter. Yeah.
The embarrassment of pinstripes. Come on.
I'll tell you one thing. Another hot take today, because apparently it's a full-on take quake today. Derek Jeter, overrated. Come at me, right? Derek Jeter's overrated baseball player.
Hey, I'm a Red Sox fan. I'm right there with you.
He's a very good baseball player. We talk about one of the greatest baseball players of all time? No, we're not. No, we are not. 866-55-PRESS. We are covering all things today. Not only are we talking about the greatest, the conversation Gene is referencing, by the way, is a conversation we talked about with Travis Waldron yesterday. I was asking, who's the best athlete you've seen their entire career arc? From like college, right on into the pros, right on into their twilight years. And I said, Peyton Manning's got to be up there, right? He might not be number one, but he's got to be way up there. Michael Jordan, I think, is number one, but Peyton Manning is way up there. We got a break coming up, but of course, let's talk to our good friend Ike down in North Charleston, South Carolina. Hey, Ike.
Yeah, Pete, I can just see you driving along in your car making a sandwich. That works every time.
Thank you, Ike.
Listen, don't ever go to Jimmy John's, okay?
Boom.
The guy believes in open carry. He allows it in his restaurants. And he's also a trophy game hunter.
I knew that about him. I've never eaten at Jimmy John's, and I don't intend to now.
I don't do business with any business that does that. If they allow open carry, or if they, just like Donald Trump's sons, the pictures of him standing in front of a dead elephant with his tail in his hand. People like that, I've got no use for, and I need to burn in hell.
I needed Ike to come on and drop some knowledge darts on Jamie. That's what I needed to have happen today. What are you eating for lunch today, Jamie?
Jimmy John's.
He's going to go get Jimmy John's, Ike. You believe that?
Yeah, well, some people have no social conscience. I suppose he's probably driving some kind of a dirty VW diesel car too while he's at it.
Ike, thank you so much for the call. I'm not trying to roast Jamie. People like what they like. I don't eat Jimmy John's for a lot of reasons. That's just one of them. You can that's fine. I eat Chick-fil-A every now and then.
Exactly.
And they hate gay people.
They do.
Full on.
They've been a little better lately, but
they have gotten
mostly
better
hate gay people.
But they mostly they hate homosexuals, just in general. All right, 44 minutes past the hour, taking questions and calls on all things. By the way, I just got this note in from the HR department. So far today, I've been 99.6% accurate on all things I've said. So, you really want to get it and take part of this program. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. We'll be right back.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
A letter to the girl I used to be. Dear Emily, every time I watch baseball, a voice I no longer recognize whispers, Ethan, do you remember? When you were going to be the first girl to play in the Major League Seattle Mariners rally cap. But to be honest, Emily, I don't. Dad told me that like it was someone else's bedtime story. But I do know you had that drive. Didn't let anyone tell you to wear shorts above your knees. Didn't care if boys thought your hair fell on your shoulders just right, but with girls, sleepovers meant the space between your shoulder and hers was a 6-inch fatal territory. The year you turned 11 was the first time you said out loud that you didn't want to live anymore. In therapy, you said you wouldn't make it to 21. On my 21st birthday, I thought about you. You were right. At 19, you started to fade. I tried to cross you out like a line in my memoir I wished I could erase completely. And maybe I'm misunderstanding the definition of death, but even though parts of you still exist, you are not here. Most of my friends have never heard your name until now. I've been trying to write this letter for 6 months. I still can't decide if it should be an apology or not. But now you will never hear Emily Smith announced at a college graduation. Get married. Give birth. When the prescribed testosterone started taking effect, my body stopped producing the potential for new life every month. I thought about your children, how I wanted them too. I let a doctor remove your breasts so that I could stand up straighter. Now, even if I somehow had those children, I wouldn't be able to nourish them. My body is obsolete, scarred cosmetic, but never C-section. I was 4 days late. They will never be grandparents. I was 1 week late. They will never hold their lover's sleeping figure. I was 11 days late. They will never breathe in a sunset and a sunrise in the same night. I was 2 weeks late. They will never learn to jump rope. I was 3 weeks late. They will never shout, "Watch, Mommy, watch me on the slide." I was 2 months late. A piece of us will never wrap their arms around our leg for comfort, but just to keep them from falling down. And I am sorry that this process is so slow, and all you can do is wonder if you ever had a place. You did. You still do. Don't forget that. Yours, Ethan. P.S. I never hated you.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show, 49 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. Thank you all so very much for either listening to the show or watching the show or tweeting with the show on Twitter at BP Show. I am also on Twitter at Peter Ogburn. Jamie is on Twitter at JBensonDC. You can reach out and touch someone. By the way, if you email or if you tweet at Jamie, he's got his email there, and you can email with him. We might have to open up the mailbag a little bit later on.
The inbox is open.
But
I don't always respond.
That's fair. But that's the quickest way to get it to us during the show, right? Is just reach out and touch someone. Send Jamie an email. You can find his email at his Twitter handle, JBensonDC.
I wish that you'd use a different terminology there. But
not going to happen.
Okay.
Not going to happen. That's just all there is to it. Last night there was a town hall it was a Democratic town hall between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. Martin O'Malley is no longer in the race. And so this was an opportunity for the two of them, because it's a two-person race. This is an opportunity for the two of them to really sort of because look, Iowa was Hillary won, but it was so close that you got to wonder where this leaves us moving forward. There's a real issue now between Bernie and Hillary and them fighting over who's the real progressive, because Bernie Sanders is insinuating that Hillary Clinton is not progressive enough, which is an interesting argument to make, because a lot of people can make the argument that President Obama was not progressive enough. And Hillary Clinton is sort of saying she loves and respects the great work that President Obama has done, and she's going to carry that torch in her presidency. And Bernie is essentially saying he's going to take it farther. So right off the bat, Bernie opens up talking about how progressive Hillary Clinton is.
Secretary Clinton said, some people call me I'm paraphrasing, some people call me a moderate, and I proudly, say that I am a moderate. That's what she said. So when all I said, you can't go and say you're a moderate on one day and be a progressive on the other day.
And Bernie says he is the real progressive in the race. He also goes on to talk about the money she received from Wall Street and how you can't call yourself a progressive if that's something that you do.
But there are other issues, Anderson, where I think she is just not progressive. I do not know any progressive who has a super PAC and takes $15 million from Wall Street. That's just not progressive.
So Bernie going there on her ties to Wall Street, which is something that Anderson Cooper sort of picked up on and asked her about the money that she got from Wall Street.
Look, I made speeches to lots of groups. I told them what I thought. I answered questions.
But did you have to be paid $675,000?
Well, I don't know. That's what they offered.
That's a bad answer, by the way. That's not a good
It's not the worst answer.
It's a pretty bad answer.
How would you have answered that?
Well, first of all, I mean, she's got a problem because she took the money, right? So, you can make the argument that, you spoke to them as a public figure, right, and made speeches to them because you weren't in office and you made money that way because it's okay to make a living that way. And that's fine, by the way. The fact that she got paid money from Wall Street for making speeches really doesn't bother me all that much. But when you go, well, that's just what they offered me. I really had no choice. I couldn't. I mean, that's not a good look, right? At the same time, by the way, they sort of brought up the vast right-wing conspiracy again and asked Hillary how she's going to handle the attacks from the Republicans, which she's been dealing with for quite some time.
How are you going to defend yourself against right-wing attacks?
Well, Sean, I've had a lot of practice.
Yeah. I mean, this has been something she's dealt with for a long, long time. Don't believe me? Bob Woodward yesterday was on Morning Joe. And just listen. Just listen to how he talks about Hillary Clinton.
I think a lot of it with Hillary Clinton has to do with style and delivery, oddly enough. Right. She shouts.
Oh, she shouts. She's a shrill, shrieking shrew of a woman is the message that he's putting out there. You can't really go out there and say that a woman candidate has a problem because she's shouty. She's just the way that she talks to us is too abrasive. That ain't right. That ain't okay. Shame on you, you old man. 866-55-PRESS is our phone number. 866-557-7377. Quick break. We'll be right back.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is the Bill Press Show.
So you're drowning in student debt, and it looks like there's no way out. Have you considered bankruptcy? Of course not. It's a dirty word, and everything you've heard says students can't file anyway. It didn't start that way. Bankruptcy laws were enacted in the 19th century to give people a fresh start. But not all debt is created equal. Take this, for example. We have you, your buddy Carlos, and your grandma Lucy. Carlos got laid off. His credit card debt was too much to handle, so he filed for bankruptcy. Will totally screw his credit, but at least he can start fresh, and after 10 years, his credit report should be fine. Grandma Lucy's home lost half its value. Now her mortgage isn't worth paying back. She says F it and decides to file for bankruptcy too. Then there's you. You didn't land that dream job, you're struggling to make ends meet, but the interest just keeps piling up. With a broken heart, you've written off the possibility of buying a home, having kids, and getting married because, hello, who wants to deal with your crazy baggage? But in reality, you want those things. and your education was supposed to get you there. Now you need a fresh start, just what bankruptcy was intended for. You try to file, like Carlos and Grandma Lucy, and that's when you realize it's not as easy for you as it was for them. In the 70s, Congress worried that students were using bankruptcy to abuse loan programs. That wasn't quite true. Still, over the years, Congress gradually stripped student debtors of their options. The Bankruptcy Reform Act of 1978 was even called discriminatory toward students by the chairman of the subcommittee. Student debt was singled out and lumped with criminal debts. Today, if student debtors try filing for bankruptcy anyway, they'll need to prove their debt imposes an undue hardship. But who's to say what qualifies as an undue hardship? Even some judges have said they don't get it. This lack of clarity in the law could work in your favor. A Harvard researcher discovered in 2012 that few students actually try to discharge their loans through bankruptcy. Of the students who filed for bankruptcy to settle other debts, only 0.1% try the same tactic on their school debt. The craziest part? Just under half of them got their debts fully or partially discharged. In other words, you can file for bankruptcy on your student loans. Depending on your situation, it might just be a matter of trying. At least there's that.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show. About a minute left here in this hour. At the top of the next hour, we'll be talking to conservative talk show host Michael Graham. Speaking of conservatives, Jeb yesterday, let's play that Jeb clip because this is just a sad clip from Jeb.
I think the next president needs to be a lot quieter, but send a signal that we're prepared to act in the national security interests of this country, to get back in the business of creating a more peaceful world. Please clap.
Jebby. Poor Jeb. That's a strong statement, and then there's no reaction. He just has to go, please clap.
And I had to turn that up a little bit. He said that so quietly and meekly.
Please clap.
I'm so sad.
Please clap. Poor Jeb. Oh, Jebby. I will miss him when he goes. Coming up next, we go to the other side. Talk to a conservative, Michael Graham, talk radio host out of Atlanta, Georgia. Stay tuned.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right, guys, I want to take the last part of the day to change our focus and talk a little bit about water. There's rivers, there's lakes, there's huge oceans. You get thirsty, you just go and you get some water, right? We rely on rain for our water. We even rely on snow. But what if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. I want you to tell your parents, your friends, your neighbors, how important it is to save water. It's up to you guys to save the planet. All right? doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. It's up to you guys to save the planet.
Hi, I'm Mark LaFleur, and I produced the short film you just watched called Aquaforce. California is experiencing one of the worst droughts it's ever had, and now, more than ever, it's important for everyone to do their part to help conserve water. The reason I made this film is because I wanted to make something fun and informative that would get people talking about the California drought. Obviously, this is an important issue because we have a limited amount of clean drinking water. I think it was very important to let people know, especially young people, that this is an important resource, maybe our most important resource, and it's something that we can't take for granted and we certainly can't waste. I really wanted this to be something that children would respond to. The kind of thing that any kid anywhere in the world, no matter what language they speak, could understand the story and be entertained by it and leave it knowing that this is something important, that if they didn't already know about this, that it's now going to be a part of the way that they think about water, the way that they live life, and that it's something that they'll share with their friends. The fact that they watch this video once or twice and they immediately understand that water is important, that's it. That was the whole point of this thing, to get it into the conversation, to make it something that kids are thinking about, talking about, that they're aware of, and that they know is important. This project was self-funded, so we relied on the support of our community to make it happen. It was pretty amazing to just have our neighbors, our friends, and our coworkers come together and volunteer their time and their homes and their kids to make this thing happen. Thanks for checking out the video. Keep the Aquaforce going, and thanks for watching Free Speech TV.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show. Here we are on a Thursday, February 4th, 2016. Oh, so much to talk about today. When you look at a couple of Republican presidential candidates dropping out of the race yesterday, we lost Rand Paul. We lost Rick Santorum, both of them dropping out. We had a Democratic forum last night, and we've got a Democratic debate tonight. Oh, boy. I'm getting tired of staying up for these things. So we're talking about all of those things and much, much more today. Hi, everybody. I'm Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press today. Bill Press has a new book out, and he's out doing that book promotion for Buyer's Remorse, How President Obama Let Progressives Down. That's the name of his book, and he's out there doing lots of media today. If you want a copy of the book, you get it on Amazon, you get it on our website, you get it all kinds of places. Yeah, you know how to buy books now. Just go get one and download it, whatever you want to do.
You can get it personalized?
You get it signed and personalized at our website, which, like, I have to say, some of the people who have already asked it to be personalized are a little...
I've seen some unspeakable...
There's some obscene things that are there. But you know what? We'll do that because we're a full-service operation. Like, we're drawing the line at, like, erotic fanfic.
I thought we were going to go there.
Okay, we might go there.
Yeah.
I mean, Bill will do a lot to sell a book. So yeah, maybe we'll get into that. That is the voice of Jamie Benson running the board. Good morning, Jamie.
Hey, good morning, Peter.
And if you call our phone number at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377, you will talk to Ray Rogers, who is standing by. And if you are watching our video stream at youtube.com/TawkrTV, TAWKR, or on DirecTV or Dish Network on Free Speech TV, you are doing so because of the great, great work of Cyprian Bolding, who is keeping us live on the video stream. So I want to talk a little bit about, get that Chris Christie clip, because there's an obsession about spanking Hillary Clinton in the Republican primary. Like, Ted Cruz said he wanted to give her a spanking, right, for lying. And then Chris Christie yesterday talked about how it would look if he got in a debate with Hillary Clinton.
I'll beat her rear end on that stage, and you know what? After I do, she'll be relieved because she'll just be worried I was going to serve her with a subpoena.
All righty. All good, clean fun, I'm sure, right? Like, all righty. Chris Christie really throwing heat, by the way. Like, he's attacking Marco Rubio. He's leaning in on everybody these days. He's got to save his campaign, I think.
Whatever lands.
Yeah, whatever lands for him, I guess. Let's talk about the Republicans for a moment with one of their own, conservative talk show host from News Radio 106.7 FM in Atlanta, Georgia. You can read some of his good work at michaelgraham.com. Full disclosure, my very first job in radio was producing for this guy. Ladies and gentlemen, classic American gas bag, Michael Graham joins me live from Atlanta. Hi, Michael.
I want Bill Press to spank me. I want Bill Press to spank me with his book. If I buy the book, will he spank me with it?
That is isn't that like a total conservative dream, right? Like Bill Press.
If I want it to hurt, do you want it to hurt, Kevin? I want it to hurt. Will he spank me?
How are you, Michael?
So here's first of all, Osborne, it's always good to talk to you. One of my favorite people on radio. And I was telling people I was going to be on my old producer, Paul Osborne, and I said, I'm hoping that hello? Are we there?
Oh, Jesus. God. Yeah,
So, here's the deal. What do Jimmy Carter, Bernie Sanders, and Sarah Palin have in common?
What is
that? They all want Donald Trump to be the Republican nominee. How amazing is that? Jimmy Carter said that he'd rather have Donald Trump over Ted Cruz. Bernie Sanders says he just wants Trump to be the nominee, and Sarah Palin, well, who knows what she's saying, because apparently she's always talking to porpoises and seals at all times. I cannot understand. Okay, I don't know. Is that? I mean, I've been to Alaska. Okay, ma'am.
That's how they communicate.
Are you ordering a drink? I don't know what you're doing.
Well, I want to ask you about the Trump overtake of the party, because it was a big social experiment, right? Whether or not Donald Trump could actually deliver votes, and most of the polls showed that he was going to be able to in Iowa. Yeah. Turns out that wasn't exactly the case. Yeah, right. And I know you are on Twitter at @IamMGraham.
That's right.
And you have notoriously sort of been taking shots at Donald Trump. What is it about Donald Trump that drives you crazy, Michael?
Well, I don't know about driving me crazy. It's just, I mean, if you're looking for a really bad late night guy to host a show where they sell you products to make your fat melt away, I mean, I would hire Donald Trump in a heartbeat. I mean, absolutely. If Donald Trump was selling me a skillet, I'd have 5 of them right now, and I would be cooking nothing in them but shoe leather and glue.
They would be wonderful. They'd be wonderful skillets, the best skillets you've owned.
As you know, I am one of those shrinking minority of people, apparently, who actually believes in stuff, like individual liberty and small government and all these principles. And apparently we just abandoned those. I mean, it has been absolutely hilarious to me as a lifelong talk radio fan, and as you know, as bad as a host as I was back when we worked together. Pete,
one of the worst I've ever heard.
I'm worse now.
Oh, God.
But I've been a longtime fan. I loved Rush back in the day. I love the fact this guy stood in front of the... Rush was the Donald Trump of media back in the day, when the media was this conglomerate big thing, and he gave him a middle finger and said, screw you, and he fought for these ideas. And I thought, wow, this is crazy. Entertainment and ideas together. I mean, normally ideas mean Sunday morning boring crap. And so back in the day, I was a Rush kid. But watching Rush and Hannity's hair and Levin all just totally sell out. I mean, they hoard themselves like a hooker at a Shriners convention. Trump, I just discovered something. I'm not a conservative anymore. I'm a Trumpian. And this is the scary part of a culture that has moved from Judeo-Christian values in the 19th century to capitalism, pseudo-libertarian values in the 20th century to now pure celebrity values. I mean, I have no doubt about it. And Pete, I challenge you, and Bill, who's back on the show, do you have any doubt that one day the President of the United States will be 5-time SmackDown champion, porn superstar, President of America, Mountain Dew Camacho?
Yeah, absolutely.
L.A. Azar Mountain Dew Camacho is going to be President of the United States.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Trump is the canary. He's the canary in the celebrity culture coal mine. We're not quite there yet, and so he's coughing on the gases because he's a little too deep in the mine. I guarantee you, 2 more election cycles, and it's going to be a Kardashian versus one of Palin's illegitimate kids. I guarantee you that grandkids. I'm sorry, illegitimate grandkids. I guarantee you that's what it's going to be.
That's actually a really smart point, because now you see everybody getting asked. All these celebrities now are being asked, would you ever run for president? Like Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban has said he's thought about running for president. Kanye West, Will Smith, they all said they're thinking about running for president. And it's no doubt because of the success of a guy like Donald Trump, who has sort of corralled his general popularity into...
But I want to get you to admit something here on the air in front of your listener. Do you concede that Donald Trump is not a conservative and that it is totally bogus for the media to try to make him somehow a poster child of conservatism? You've suffered through enough conservative conversation to know. I want an honest answer from you, Pete.
Here's what I will say. I think that's a fair point, Michael. I don't think he's a conservative. I think he is whatever people need him to be at the time. He's a Trumpian. But at the same time, Republicans and the conservatives have they're sowing the seeds of befriending and making Donald Trump into something over all these years. You remember how Mitt Romney just dropped everything and flew to go and meet with Donald Trump and go in front of the cameras because he could get Donald Trump's endorsement. And at some point, you would think that conservatives, the thought leaders of the conservative movement would say, we really don't need this guy in the fold. We really don't need our candidate for president dropping his campaign and going and kissing the ring of Donald Trump on national television. He's a fringe character, and that's okay. Like, he could be out there. He could be one of those Hollywood Republicans that are hard to find, but we don't want him actually in our party, you know?
Right.
And so, this is sort of the chickens coming home to roost, but I think you do make a good point. He's not a conservative in that sense.
And that's why I was so, people who, go to michaelgraham.com and see my stuff. I've written a lot for National Review. Right now I'm working with the Weekly Standard. I do their podcast. But I was so proud of my friends at National Review when Trump was in the middle of winning 13 polls in a row. 13 polls in a row said he was going to win.
Yeah.
They said, we don't care about the polls. We are going to defend these ideas of conservatism from this guy, and they did that issue. I'm not saying the issue had any impact on the election. That's a separate thing. I just am glad that somebody with a media platform in the heart of the conservative world stood up and said, look, you can vote for the guy if you want, but you can't vote for him because he's a conservative.
Yeah.
He doesn't get that. You can vote for him because you're angry. You can vote for him because you think the whole system sucks. I actually think that given the horrific job that President Obama has done, and he will go down in history as one of the 5 worst presidents ever. That's not in debate. The question is, will he be in top 1, 2, or 3? But the horrible damage he's done, not just in policy, not just the failure of Obamacare, not just the failure of his foreign policy, but because of his, he's the first Democrat in power to show the disdain that Democrats have for democracy. You hear it all the time. I hear it on your show when I tune in. The voters are dummies. Look at these rednecks out there clinging to their guns. They're all idiots. The people are too stupid to be allowed to vote. What's wrong with the stupid American people? They're all stupid.
We've never said that. We've never said that. I've maybe said that about Iowans, but not Republicans.
Wait a minute. We can all agree on that.
Yeah.
But but seriously, the disdain, you hear it all the time from, for example, the issue of same-sex marriage. The issue of same-sex marriage should have been settled by voting. That's how you change laws. That's how you extend rights, is by voting. We only have 2 rights in America that were extended not by voting: abortion and gay marriage. Every other right is by voting. Democrats don't believe in democracy. They believe in an elitist group to govern us, and Obama showed that elitism. So I don't blame people who know that Obama hates them for saying, you know what, if this is what Washington's going to do, I'm just going to throw in a hand grenade and blow up your whole damn system. And that's what Donald Trump is, that hand grenade.
I take issue with a lot of what you said, but
no, you don't.
But no, I do. Look, I think that they're
scared of you. He knows I'm telling the natural truth.
But I'm going to move on from that, because I do want to talk a little bit about the moving forward for a guy like Donald Trump, right? Because this was this great big social experiment of whether or not all of the exposure of Donald Trump being on TV would translate to votes. And in Iowa, it didn't. And we were saying, well, all these people are saying that they're going to vote for Trump, but will they actually do it? So, now I think that Iowa was a unique case, and it was certainly the first blow for Donald Trump. But beyond that, it's a little easier for people to get that anger vote out moving forward. So New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina, I think Trump will do probably very well in those states. But when it gets down to a real slog, how is Trump going to compete with a guy like Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio, if we're saying it's a 3-man race?
Well, as you know, I was in Boston for 8 years doing talk radio before I came here to Atlanta. So I spent a lot of time in New Hampshire, covered presidential primaries there, et cetera. I think the most interesting thing I've seen, 2 things in the last 24 hours. One is Trump going full whiner. I'm just full Saturday Night Live. He picked on me. That is, when your message is, I'm a winner because I win, no. Now let's say whiner because I whine. That's not good. Second thing is, you see the new national poll that basically has the 3 of them tied. It's like 25, 21, 21, which in the national poll, that's all in the margin of error.
These things move quick, man.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Is I just wonder if Trump had the self-discipline to do what he did right after he lost Iowa and be gracious.
Yeah.
And then if he had shown up in New Hampshire and said, look, I know everybody's here to see me bash Ted Cruz, and I'll give you a little bit of that, but I want to make sure that these are 3 things I want to do as president. 3 plans. And, by the way, let me just spend 2 minutes explaining my tax plan, which is 4 pages long, which is all you need, right?
Yeah.
And two of that is endorsed ads for my menswear, my casinos. I think that would have helped him. I really wonder if the Trump mirage, it's kind of thing you go to the magic show. If you ever see behind the curtain, if you ever see the guy palm the coin, the illusion's done. I just wonder. I'm not predicting that, but put those two things together, undermining his own message, and then this huge move in the polls. I don't know. I'll also say this: actually, Trump, because there's a kind of redneck wing of the party, and I can say that because I grew up in rural South Carolina.
A proud son of Pelean, South Carolina.
Exactly. They like, a lot of Trump's, animosity.
Yeah.
And I actually think he could do well in the Super Tuesday states. But I wonder what kind of shape he's going to be in when he gets here.
Yeah.
For example, 2 unimpressive wins where it's 23, 23, 23.
Yeah.
I think people start going, you know what? We're picking a president. Let's pick a president.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, and that's we talk about that a lot. The establishment has always sort of won out. It happened with John McCain. It happened with Mitt Romney.
But let's face it, it's all over because, of course, we all know America is going to elect an elderly woman who can't work a smartphone, who takes $675,000 checks from big companies, and by the way, puts top secret information in her basement server next to her collection of cat sweaters. We all know America is going to be for her 100%. By the way, I love her defense. I love Hillary's defense. Hey, it's not my fault those idiots sent me top secret stuff to my totally unsecured email.
We actually played the clip from her the debate or the town hall last night where she was trying to defend the money she got.
Right. Well, they offered it to me.
Well, that's what they offered me.
What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, that's not a good answer.
Exactly. It's like when I was at the Clinton Foundation.
Right.
He wanted a big contract in Northern Africa. What was I supposed to do? Turn down the money?
All right. So
actually, you're Secretary of State. What?
We got about 40 seconds left, Michael. How do you see the Republican primary shaking down? How do you see this sort of ending?
I think it's Cruz's to win or lose. In other words, if he can show that he can open the door and be a guy who represents more of the party, I think he can win it. But so far he hasn't done that, and by not doing that, I think the votes shunt off to Rubio. But let's say this, Peter Ogburn, because this is an important day to remember, and I'm tearing up as I say this. No matter what else happens, the one thing we know for sure is I will never have to vote for a freaking Bush again. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Every day that Bush goes out and says, please clap.
Please clap.
Every day, everybody who votes against Bush, an angel gets his wings. I just want you to know that. Every vote against it's so glorious. Finally, the horror of the Bush era is over. Hallelujah.
Please clap. Please clap. There he is, ladies and gentlemen, conservative talk show host at News Radio 106.7 FM in Atlanta, Georgia. My dear friend and classic American gas bag, Michael Graham. Follow him on Twitter at IamMGraham and read his good stuff at michaelgraham.com. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Pete.
Take care, buddy. There he goes. Good job, right? Please clap. He did a good job. Please clap.
Please clap.
Please clap. Thank you, Jebby. All right, Peter Ogburn in for Bill Press. We'll be right back.
Follow us on Twitter at BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is the story of my grandfather. When I was 19 years old, his right hand was crushed in a printing press. He was supposed to lose the hand, but a young doctor saved it just in time for the war. This is the story of the war. My grandfather repaired tanks. Behind the front lines, away from the cameras, he would pull pieces of dead men from the machines and send the machines back out to the field. This is the story of the war a decade later. Back then, you didn't talk about depression. There was no such thing as PTSD. When my uncle, age 7, asked him who won the war, my grandfather said, nobody. This is the story of my grandfather, the machinist. I have a newspaper from 1981, a story about the Nobel Prize for Physics, a photograph of the winner, a Harvard man standing by his machines. This man is not my grandfather. Beneath the photo, my grandfather has written, I designed and built almost everything in this picture. They worked together for 10 years, but my grandmother says the physicist never even remembered his name. If you asked that Harvard man, there would be no story of my grandfather, just a pair of disembodied hands. This is the problem with stories. They have to leave something out. The editor cuts a line and someone's face fades. The editor says 200 words or less and suddenly a whole family goes missing. The spotlight isn't about the light, it's how it makes everything around it dark. My grandfather's face is erased from every story. The machines survive, But the man who made them doesn't. The machines make the photo, but their maker is out of frame. But we choose where to point the camera. We can choose how to tell the story. We can choose which clothing the hero wears. I could tell you this is a story about a soldier, or I could tell you this is a story about the blue-collar man, but really, this is just the story of my grandfather. I did not know him. I was born too late, but my family tells me his name. Alfred Franzosa. I know that name might only live in this moment, that there are other stories with greater stakes, but still, I will tell you his name. I will repair this old machine. I will let my grandfather live again because I could not know him while he was living. Once, when he was younger than I am now, his right hand was crushed by a printing press, crushed by other people's stories. When it healed, he began to build. He used his hands to build tanks and his hands to build cradles. His hands were the last thing to touch dead soldiers and the first to touch his newborn sons. He built a good family, and that family built me, and now I use my hands to build his story. The story is not a eulogy. A eulogy seals the casket. A eulogy lets no air out. This story is a resurrection. Jesus was not resurrected by God. He was brought back by the people who told his stories. It does not take a miracle to raise the dead, to leave behind the tombstone and take the name with you.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show. Here we go. One quick segment, and then we're going to reset in the next segment here. By the way, everybody's mad at me because I had Michael Graham on the show. He's a conservative talk show host. Sometimes we have conservative people on the show, every now and then. That's okay. I disagree with a lot of what he said, but this guy hears from conservatives all day long on his show.
You get a glimpse into their world.
Yeah, I want to hear what people have to think and what they have to say about the Republican nominees. You have to chill out. Good grief. Peter Ogden in for Bill Press. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness
my beauty,
my power. My life.
but I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped, and tied.
Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Help keep all the presidential candidates straight with your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
Yes, it is The Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. Need to get your calls on a couple of things here. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. We were talking about the Democratic Forum earlier between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. Let's talk about it some more with Bill from Joliet, Illinois. Hello, Bill.
Hey, good morning, guys. How's it going?
Good, man. Thanks for calling in.
All right. Yeah, I just get so upset about this argument with, is she progressive? Anybody out there can look. It's plain to see. She is not a progressive Democrat, and you have Bernie Sanders out there trying to take back, trying to reinstill faith in the Democratic Party and give it back its identity. And people keep saying, well, Hillary might be a progressive. A progressive doesn't serve on the board of Walmart from 1987 to 1992, right? And then is it just by chance that all of a sudden her husband becomes president and then we pass NAFTA and Walmart becomes the biggest employer in the country?
It's a good call. It's a good call, Bill, and it highlights sort of some of the concerns that people have about Hillary Clinton. Look, I think either one of them, either Hillary or Bernie, would be phenomenal in the role as president. I really do. I really do. And I know that pisses off people who support both of the candidates. And these forums that they have last night, these are good things, right? Like Hillary's campaign was going, oh, how dare Bernie attack us over these things? And Bernie's campaign, acts like it's a horrible thing that they bring up some of his voting record on guns. This is good. This is a good conversation to have, right? The conversation is not over who's crazier. It's over who is serving the progressive and Democratic Party best, right? And that's a fair conversation to have. So, yes, there are concerns on both sides, and I'm glad that they're getting them out there, and that sharpens them when they get into a general debate to actually talk about them in a manner. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Jamie, let me ask you a question. I'm going to get back to the politics in just a second, but this story just came across. I have to ask you about this, because this is you are a millennial. You are. By definition.
Oh, I know. Sorry, I wasn't refuting.
Oh, I'm sorry. You were listening to another conversation?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Multitask.
Do I have you here?
I'm here.
All right. You are a millennial.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you this, because there is a new trend among millennials where they are dyeing their hair, but they're dyeing their hair gray.
Yeah,
You've seen this?
I've seen this. I haven't seen this on a male.
No, this is a male thing. This is a male. They're talking specifically about
like AC360
millennial
style.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Full gray. They point to this guy Zayn from the One Directions, right?
Sure.
All right.
Yep.
So he's got gray hair. He's dyed his hair gray.
No, I don't support that.
All right. I don't either. But they're saying that there are men now, millennials, who are going out and going from like black or brown hair and putting like gray streaks in it to like make them look more dignified. I don't.
Does this have any correlation with millennials' love for Bernie Sanders? Is this a?
It's a good question.
I could see we haven't talked about this very much on the show.
Mm-hmm.
The Bernie Bros.
Oh, the Bernie Bros.
I could see the Bernie Bros
being
gray. Into that.
Do you know who Tyler Oakley is?
No.
Okay, good. Thank goodness. He's a social media personality, and he has experimented with his hair color. This is from the New York Times. They've officially reported on this trend. And he says he's gone from many shades from purple to green. But gray is the favorite color I've ever had, said Oakley. It was unique and fun, but it's not eye-catching. So they're saying you blend in, but you still get the fun experience of having a different colored hair. Right? You don't have to go like green.
But you were essentially trying to propel yourself into old age.
Yeah. Why would you want to do that?
I mean, I get it. It looks artificial, so it's not the same thing of literally your hair going gray.
They look gray, though. They look like older men.
But
These guys are dyeing their hair gray.
To look older.
I am a 36-year-old man. You could see cameras catch it. I got a little something happening up here where I'm starting to lose. It's tiny. It's thin.
I'm a 26-year-old man. I got a little something going on up here.
Like I'm not one of these bros like that's like, oh man, dude, I can't lose my hair, man. I'm just like, this like it has me concerned about the whole trip of life, man.
I mean, I got a baby face, right?
Sure.
So
guilty.
A couple years back, I decided to keep a fair amount of facial hair.
Yeah, a little something going on there.
That's a good solve.
That's a good solve.
Wanting to look more older and distinguished.
Good
right?
point. Yes.
Dyeing your hair gray, trying to accelerate that, is the wrong road to go down.
I don't know why. I don't get it. I don't get why you want to look older than you really are, right? Unless you're one of these people like has got a baby face and you solve it with facial hair. That's a perfectly acceptable and normal solution. Don't dye your hair gray. Hey, breaking news, by the way, overnight. This is actually a huge story. I find this to be really badass. DeRay McKesson, like one of the best Twitter users out there, Black Lives Matter activist, organizer. You've seen him all over everywhere with his blue vest. DeRay came in just under the wire, by the way. There was a filing deadline of 9 p.m. last night to file to run as mayor of Baltimore, Maryland. And DeRay went in about 15 minutes before that deadline and filed to run to be mayor of Baltimore, Maryland. That is an amazing story.
It's huge.
And like it's got legs, by the way. I mean, Baltimore is one of these weird cities where like I could see this happening.
This is my favorite part of the story.
Come on.
So we have a couple leading candidates in the Baltimore mayoral race, right? One of the leading candidates is a Democrat. Her name is Sheila Dixon. She was actually formerly mayor in Baltimore. She said yesterday, after DeRay announced this, that she had never heard of him.
Oh, no.
Maybe you shouldn't be mayor of Baltimore.
I mean,
where the issues that he is talking about are the most important issues in your city.
You know, if you're not familiar with D-Ray, and I'm not judging if you haven't necessarily. I think the mayor of Baltimore should 100, or if you're running to be mayor of Baltimore, you should 100% know who D-Ray is. But if you don't know who he is, he's there on the scene where just about every injustice where the police have killed unarmed black people, violence against black people, he's there, right? Like, he's there in the streets, marching, peacefully protesting these stories. And so when you look at this election cycle, just in general, right? And I'm not making comparisons in the politics, but you look at someone like Donald Trump or Bernie Sanders, who have got the personality, got the presence, not necessarily politically, but has got that gravitas. Like, can he translate it into votes?
Well, the most important part here is going to be the same situation Bernie Sanders has, right?
Yeah.
Young people have to come out and vote.
Young people have got to come out and vote, and they never do. But they are for Bernie, right? They did for Obama. Let's see if we can keep that going. And it's a fascinating thing. We know that the Freddie Gray case in Baltimore is so high profile. No one's brought more attention to it than D-Ray. And so if you're a citizen of Baltimore and you are, and facts are facts, predominantly African-American city, and you're worried about how the police treat black people in your community, it's an interesting study to see if D-Ray can take this all the way. You can follow him on Twitter at D-Ray, D-E-R-A-Y.
Another question I have.
Go, yeah.
Is he going to wear that blue vest?
That I was going to get there.
When he campaigns?
He's got to wear it when he campaigns.
Or when if he gets elected.
He will wear it while he campaigns. I will promise you that.
That'll change the face of the modern politician.
Totally. When he goes, if
forget the city.
If he makes it, will he keep that blue vest on?
Man, he's never taken that thing off. I know a couple months ago he had some repairs done. He went to the Patagonia factory. They took pictures. They made sure that they got everything all tightened up.
Guy's the greatest spokesman for Patagonia they've ever had.
Wears that thing in the dead heat of the summer.
I'd love to know if he's got like multiple ones.
No,
right?
It's just one.
It's just the one.
It's just, I told you, they went to the factory. They repaired the existing one.
He's
got to
have
a new
backup,
one or anything.
right?
No,
like,
no
what
backups.
happens if it gets ripped or like he spills coffee?
I know
on
some folks that are close to him. No backups. There's one vest.
No kidding. He should get a backup.
He probably should.
He should probably get a backup.
Yeah.
You know, like B.B. King played Lucille, right? His guitar Lucille. There are probably 20 Lucilles out there, right? It's not just one guitar. D-Ray should just get a backup blue vest. All right. 866-55-PRESS is my phone number, 866-557-7377. We'll take a quick break. We'll talk a little more 2016 when we come back. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. You can follow me on Twitter at Peter Ogburn. Follow the show at BP Show. And what the hell? Follow Jamie Benson. J. Benson, DC. All of us on Twitter. We'll be right back.
It occurred to me tonight, for the first time, that the long-winged insect that over and over again rams its body into the wood of my front door might not know what he's doing. He might not have a plan. Maybe that's just how he flies, and that is where the door is. And I remember you. The last time I saw you, a few weeks before we would graduate from high school, and a few days before you let a bullet dissolve on your tongue, dancing in a warehouse rave, sweat-drenched and strobe light battered, thrashing your arms back and thrusting them forward. The floor could get so bright and loud, we all slowed down to be more careful, but you kept dancing full sprint tornado, and sometimes you'd spin full weight into a wall and just spread your arms against it and sway back and forth like a lover reunited. This long-winged insect is not trying to get into the house. It doesn't know there is a house. can't imagine a life beyond that door. All it can see is the light. You and I were both 17 when you died. And ever since then, I have envied you. How you are remembered for towering, unclaimed potential instead of living to look regret in the face. You didn't have to come home 3 weeks later and explain to your little brother why you took too much medicine. Your addiction is remembered as a tragedy, not a betrayal. Your suicide attempt became a suicide, not an unpaid hospital bill. And only tonight did it occur to me that maybe that night when you let your teeth touch metal, you might not have known what you were doing. You might not have had a plan. Maybe you had hit that door so many times you couldn't imagine it might let you through. I'm still ashamed to admit it, but I have always secretly believed you did it for me, that you wanted to show me that there is a way out of all of this. Not so that I would follow you, but so I would understand that every day that I am alive is a day that I choose to be alive. And when the music stops, you still get to keep on dancing. And when the light is so bright it blinds, you can dance with your eyes closed. And if in that dark you come up against a wall, you keep your arms out wide and you dance with the wall.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show, 47 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press today. We've covered all the big topics of the day. We've talked about the Democratic Forum last night, the town hall. We talked about a little bit of the 2016 side with Republicans. We talked about why eating at Subway or Jimmy John's or any of the other sandwich restaurants are a waste of your time, right? Caught a hot eye roll from Jamie Benson there as I said that. One quick thing. There's another story. There's a lawsuit taking place because people are suing McDonald's because McDonald's have these new mozzarella sticks and they contain zero cheese. Like, there's no cheese in the McDonald's mozzarella sticks.
But they are delicious.
Look, man, I'm a sucker for like a good mozzarella stick. But if you get mozzarella sticks at McDonald's, don't be surprised that there's no cheese in them, right? And I'm not shaming anybody for eating there. I'm just saying, don't be surprised. Like, you can't like take part in a class action lawsuit because there's no cheese in the McDonald's cheese sticks. What do you expect is going to be in there? It's just like glue. That's all it is. So I'll play a little audio from yesterday. We got word that Rand Paul was dropping out. We got word that Rick Santorum was dropping out. Rick Santorum, by the way, dropped out of the race and practically immediately endorsed Marco Rubio, which I find kind of funny. I mean, it doesn't really matter who Rick Santorum endorses because he is a little blip on the radar. But it is fascinating to me that, like, there are a lot of other evangelical candidates in the race that Rick Santorum would identify with more, right? Like Ted Cruz has doubled down on the evangelical vote. And Ben Carson, a.k.a. Ben Barson, also has, like, going after the evangelical vote. But Rick Santorum endorsed Marco Rubio. So I think that says a lot about the likability of Ted Cruz. I just don't think people like him. Can we get the Ben Carson clip where he talked about the clothes? But this is not a guy who's taking his candidacy seriously, by the way, right? Like, I know that there's a controversy about, like, what Ted Cruz told Ben Carson voters about him dropping out of the race. But, like, if you are going to actually be competitive and the night of the Iowa caucus you fly back to Florida to get a change of clothes when, like, you still have New Hampshire and South Carolina on the horizon where you might actually, do well enough to at least stay alive. He flew to Florida, and then he flew to Washington, D.C. to hold the thing at the National Press Club.
Why does he love the press club?
I don't know. It's so weird, right? Like, it's a little inside, but like we get press releases from them all the time, and he comes to the press club for events. I don't know if he gets like a good deal on the space or if he just knows that reporters will show up there and he gets more coverage that way. But he flew to Florida and he got his change of clothes, and then he came to the National Press Club and he talked about the whole thing with his clothes.
Is it, well, let me ask you this question. Is it okay after being on the road for almost 3 weeks to go home and get a fresh change of clothes? Or is that a problem? Does that make somebody into an evil, horrible person?
Evil. No, it doesn't make anybody an evil or horrible person. It makes them into a dumbass. Right? You're running for president. Maybe prepare yourself a little bit. Maybe bring enough clothes to change into. And if you didn't bring enough clothes, they got 24-hour dry cleaners everywhere you go in America. I take my shirts in every Saturday morning before 9 o'clock. I got them back by 5 p.m., right? That's just how it works nowadays. You get your clothes back. Go to a laundromat. You can wash your undies and your socks. When we did the Democratic and the Republican conventions in 2008, I was on the road for 2 straight weeks. Went to Denver first and then to the Minneapolis. As soon as I got to Minneapolis, found a laundromat, washed all my clothes. Boom. Done. I didn't fly back home to get new clothes. Or Ben Carson's the most successful surgeon, maybe of all time. Guy's got money. Buy a new set of clothes, dude. It's not evil to fly back to Florida and get new clothes. It's just dumb.
I mean, we've all got our favorite pair of underwear.
Hey.
Don't hate.
Wash them, though. If it was his favorite pair.
Why he went to Florida.
But why didn't he bring them to begin with?
They got good tide there.
They got good tide. They got good tide. They got that good tide in Florida. He's got to go get that good tide. 53 minutes past the hour. One other quick thing, that the accusations are running wild between Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. Donald Trump says Ted Cruz stole the election in Iowa. And Ted Cruz sort of fired back and said, well, Bernie is contesting the results in Iowa too. Donald, why don't you go join your fellow Democrats? It's so funny to me how these two dance around the fact that they absolutely hate each other, but they can't actually let it look that way in public because they both need each other's votes, especially Cruz. Like, the funniest thing to me is when Ted Cruz was like, my good friend Donald Trump is attacking me. I mean, either he's your good friend or he's attacking you, right? You can't have it both ways, you dummy. Right? You're either in this fighting an enemy or you're not. He's my good friend, but he's so unfair, and I'm going to also make fun of him. All right, let's take a quick break. What the hell? 866-55-PRESS is our phone number. 866-557-7377 is our phone number. My name is Peter Ogburn. Sitting in with Bill Press today. For Bill Press today. Excuse me. For Bill Press today. He gone. We'll be right back.
Connect with...
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC. Or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
For Mike Brown. I'm sick of writing this poem, but bring the boy. His new name, his same old body, ordinary black dead thing, bring him. And we will mourn until we forget what we are mourning. And isn't that what being black is about? Not the joy of it, but the feeling when you're looking at your child, turn your head, then poof, no more child. That feeling, that's black. Think, once a white girl was kidnapped, and that's the Trojan War. Later, up the block, Troy got shot, and that was Tuesday. Are we not worthy of a city of ash, of 1,000 ships launched because we are missed? I demand a war to bring the black boy back, no matter what his name is this time. I at least demand a song. A song will do. Or a head.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Peter Ogburn in for Bill Press today. Let's take a very quick call at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Yes or no? Let's go to Jim in Albuquerque. Hey, Jim.
Good morning, Peter.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, I was just wanting to say, I think maybe we're missing the whole picture here. If Emperor Ben Carson can't manage his clothes, how is he going to manage the most powerful country in the world?
It's a very good point, Jim. That's a very good point. If you can't even make sure that you've got clean underwear while you're running for president, how are you going to control those nuclear codes? Good call, Jim. Peter Ogburn sitting in for Bill Press today. A lot of good stuff coming up in the next hour. We are going to talk a little sports, but from a different angle at the top of the next hour. The technological advances of how we watch the Super Bowl. And also more politics with Pema Levy from Mother Jones next hour. Stay tuned, yes?
This is the Bill Press Show.
The hardest moments for me is when I'm laying awake in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about all the times I made a pitcher of Kool-Aid with the water, or I boiled a pot of corn or potatoes with the water. Those thoughts just stick with me in the middle of the night, and I feel horrible as a mom that I didn't know that something was wrong, but how could I have known? There's no way I would have known.
The spill at Dan River happened when a drainage pipe that ran underneath an ash basin and dam collapsed, sucking out 6 decades of waste and spewing gunk directly into the river.
My husband and I just kind of looked at each other like, should we be concerned? We live right next to an ash pond, and this was coal ash spilling into the Dan River, and we learned at that point all of the toxins that were included in coal ash.
A situation like Dan River, where there was a catastrophic
disaster gets people's attention. But the fact is that these coal ash pits have been leaking and poisoning people's groundwater and the state's surface waters for decades. Coal ash is the residue left behind after coal is burned in a coal-fired power plant. A large coal-fired power plant can burn 10 million tons of coal a year. When the organic matter in the coal is burned away, what's left behind are these trace minerals, things like arsenic, lead, mercury, selenium, and chromium. And these are highly concentrated. The coal ash can have concentrations of these contaminants that are 10 to 100 times greater than the level in the coals themselves.
Coal ash pond number 1 is right behind my house, literally pretty much in my backyard. We were approached by a neighbor who was wanting to have their well tested, and we decided that maybe we should have ours tested as well. They found hexavalent chromium at 4.5 parts per billion.
So in talking to the residents, we have discovered anecdotal evidence of an extraordinary number of cancers for this fairly small community.
Some of us in the community got together. We started kind of talking about all the cancer that we've seen in some of our family friends in this community. I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of around 70 names. So we had some help from our river keepers putting a map together. And it was a little shocking to see it. You know, I still have a hard time looking at it.
Technically, EPA has not regulated coal ash as a hazardous waste, but it is undeniable that coal ash contains many, many hazardous substances that are hazardous, in fact, to people and the environment. And the only reason they have not been regulated as such is because of intense lobbying efforts by the coal industry and its allies.
A lot of these chemicals are simple elements, but when you find them at the levels that they exist in around coal ash ponds, then you're starting to talk about cancer, brain tumors, you're talking about birth defects, developmental problems, neurotoxicity.
We began to look at legal options, cases that we could bring in court to protect communities and their citizens from these toxic leaking time bombs. In 2002, North Carolina enacted a public financing mechanism for judicial elections. This kept private money out of judicial elections.
The repeal of the public financing program in judicial elections in North Carolina creates a dangerous precedent for all, and it gives corporate polluters and other special interests the opportunity to elect the judges that they want. And this is important for us all. Everyone should care about this. Because when you think about the fact that the state and the federal government have basically abdicated their responsibility to regulate these issues, the state courts are the last stopgap.
I think this is no longer a problem that's going to go under the radar. It has been exposed, and I am confident that we will ultimately, with the facts, win out and ensure that we have protected waterways.
And so this is something that we all should care about. If we're worried about the water we drink and the air we breathe, we have to be concerned about money in judicial elections.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show. Here we are beginning the third hour of the program. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press today on a Thursday, February 4th. As we move right on through the week, we got a biggity big couple of shows coming up next week as we're going to be broadcasting live from Manchester, New Hampshire to get the primary results there. You're really going to want to watch those shows. They're going to be cuckoo bananas. We're going to be broadcasting TV and radio from Manchester, New Hampshire. Hello, everybody. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377 is our phone number. You can reach out and talk to us that way. You can also tweet the show at BP Show. You can tweet me at Peter Ogburn. And you can tweet Jamie Benson at JBensonDC, running the board. Hello, Jamie.
Hello, Peter.
Jamie also serves as the unofficial mailbag of the show because he has his email address and his Twitter handle. So you got to go to his Twitter page and get the email address to email with us. And you know what? Next segment, I think we're going to open up the mailbag.
Is your mailbag open? You have a mailbag that's open?
Peter Ogburn at gmail.com. I'll put it out there. I don't care.
Yeah.
That's my name at Gmail. I could block emails, right? Hit me in the inbox if you got something to say.
But also CC me because I want to see what they're saying about you.
Good point. Yeah, good point. Shoot us an email or, as I said, give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. And if you do that, you will talk to Ray Rogers, who is standing by to take your calls. And keeping us on the video this morning is Cyprian Bolding. If you want to watch us on youtube.com/TawkrTV or Free Speech TV, Cyprian has you covered. A really big story yesterday, by the way. Get that first Obama clip, Jamie. I just want to get this out there because the president went to a mosque yesterday, and it was really touching, some of the things that he had to say. He talked to a lot of youth, and he said, if you ever question whether or not you belong here, you belong here. You're in the right place. This is the president of the United States speaking to Muslim youth at a mosque up in Baltimore, Maryland. Here he is.
This mosque, like so many in our country, is an all-American story. You've been part of this city for nearly half a century.
He said, Muslims are dying for this country, right? Like we have Muslims in the armed services who are going over and fighting for this country. As I mentioned, he said, if you're a youth and you ever wonder, if you're lost or you're having a hard time, like you're welcome here. I thought that was good stuff by the president. It was a really interesting thing to get to put out there. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl coming up. It's this weekend, and we're going to talk to Max Willens from the International Business Times, not just about sports and how the game is going to play out, but also how we watch them and how we view them, with a very interesting piece about the high level of technology around sports these days. That's coming up. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Jamie Benson.
All right, just a couple of other stories for you on this Thursday morning. Toyota, the car company, has announced that they will be killing off their Scion brand.
Oh, whoa.
Remember the Scion? They debuted back in 2003. They were hard to miss. The box-shaped, I guess, is the best way to put it. And it was targeted specifically to younger buyers. In fact, I remember becoming a fan of the Roots at the time, and Questlove of the Roots actually endorsed Scion. He was one of their first celebrity endorsements.
Oh, I do remember that.
Tweeted yesterday he was very sad about Toyota doing this. So what they're going to do is they're just going to rebadge all of the Scion products as Toyota, so we won't use the name anymore. They released a statement, Toyota did, saying Scion achieved its goals of developing unique products and processes and bringing in new and younger customers to Toyota. Obviously, the youth market has changed quite a bit since 2003. They also
They don't drive anymore.
They don't really drive anymore. They made a quick point to say that millennials aspire to well-established, highly respected global brands like Toyota, along with Audi and BMW.
Okay.
So,
all right.
No more Scion.
Shout out Toyota. I firmly established my liberal elitist cred. I am a 2 Toyota Prius family.
That's right.
2
That's right.
Priuses.
That's right. Yeah, big deal. If you are a vegan and you have a sweet tooth.
If I'm a what?
If you're a vegan.
Okay.
And you have a sweet tooth.
Ugh.
I have some good news for you. Ben & Jerry's is finally ready to launch their non-dairy line with 4 new vegan flavors. No, not here for that.
Not here for that.
Here whatsoever.
You know what? And by the way, this isn't because I hate vegans. I'm all for vegans, but like, if you're vegan, just embrace that you're vegan. Like, the fact that you got to replace everything, right? Like, oh, we don't eat steak, we eat tofu, or we don't like, chorizo in our tacos, we put in tempeh. Just use a bunch of good, yummy vegetables.
Can I ask you a question, though?
Yeah.
Do you drink almond milk?
I do drink almond milk.
This is what this ice cream is made with.
Yeah, you know what? Almond milk ice cream is disgusting.
You're still out of it. Okay. All right.
I make my own almond milk.
It's made with almond milk, and there's 4 flavors starting out.
I got a nut bag.
2 flavors that will stay permanent: the classic chocolate fudge brownie and chunky monkey, which regular Ben & Jerry's, obviously, but in this case they'll be made healthier with almond milk, and 2 limited edition flavors: coffee caramel fudge and PB and cookies, which is vanilla and chocolate sandwich
Those
cookies.
sound delicious.
Yeah, I kind of wish the second one was actually real ice cream that they were releasing that. But
should I try this? Yes or no?
I think you should. Yahoo was the one who wrote this story up. They said they got an advanced taste and said, quote, they found them to be some of the most convincing non-dairy ice cream we've ever tried.
Oh, I mean, Jesus, what an endorsement.
Yeah. So
that stuff tastes like crap.
They will arrive on shelves in mid to late February. The one big negative here, outside of all the negatives Peter just mentioned, standard pints of Ben & Jerry's cost about $4.89. These vegan flavors, $5.69.
Bummer. Is it like, I imagine it's probably a lot healthier for you too, right?
Yeah.
Without all that fat.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a vegan hater, but like, come on, just embrace your veganness, and there's so many good things out there for you. You don't have to do replacement things. Right?
And today in marijuana news, we have our first ever drive-through recreational weed window opening coming up in the next couple of months here. Can you guess what day it's opening on?
Oh, let me guess. Is it going to be April 20th?
That's my birthday. That's right.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
420.
The grand opening will happen in Gold Beach, Oregon, which is an ocean town tucked into the southwestern corner of the Oregon coast. There are actually some medicinal marijuana drive-thrus on 8 Mile in Detroit, and also one in Olympia, Washington. But this is the first drive-thru that's going to sell basically regular party pot.
Regular old party pot, recreational pot.
Don't need a card or anything like that. It's legal there in Oregon. You're good to go.
I've bought pot many times in my life. We have a dispensary right across the street from the studio. I've been in there many times. I don't smoke pot anymore. I've never had the urge to drive through to buy my pot. You know, the fun thing about buying pot sometimes is that you, especially nowadays when you have dispensaries, it's like it's all out there in front of you. You can talk to people, you can see it, you can smell it, right? You get eyes on it. Drive through. I like the
novelty of it.
Yeah, I get it. Look,
this is the first.
Hey,
couple more open. I'm done.
Hey, folks, you're one of those jet setters that can't slow down to buy your pot from a store? Buy it in your car from the convenience of the driver's seat.
That's how McDonald's started.
Oh, man. You're so high you can't even go into a store. Like, you've got to drive through. 866-55-PRESS is our phone number. We got lots to talk about today, tons of political news, but the big game, the Super Bowl, is coming up this weekend. And a very interesting story came across our desk from Max Willens. He is the staff writer for International Business Times. You can find him on Twitter at Max Willens, Willens. You should follow him there. And it's all about the Super Bowl and how we will be consuming it. Hey, Max, thanks for joining me, man.
Hey, Peter. Thanks to be here.
Good stuff. All right, so let's talk a little bit about your piece because the Super Bowl is going to be in San Francisco, right in the heart of the big tech movement, right? And so how have things changed? How are people going to be experiencing the Super Bowl in new and different ways?
So, as you point out, this year the Super Bowl is in San Francisco. It's the first time in 30 years it's been out there, and in that time, Silicon Valley has come into existence, and the sort of expectation and the standards for what makes a big, new, shiny stadium have changed, too. Every time an NFL team builds a new stadium, they have this mandate to make it bigger, shinier, more impressive than all the other stadiums that are out there. And in previous years, that meant, maybe we're going to put in more luxury suites, or we're going to do something to the way the seats work, or we're going to put in bigger, shinier, higher definition screens so that people can watch instant replays on. But when the San Francisco 49ers decided that they were going to build a new stadium, they thought, we're going to make this the most well-connected stadium that's ever been built. So that means easier to get online from your phone, easier to get a good cell reception, and basically have that be the hallmark of going to a 49ers game. And that's basically what they've done. Levi Stadium, which is where the game's going to be played, offers 40 gigabytes per second of wireless connectivity. That's 4 times more than any other stadium in the United States, or really even in the world. And they've put Wi-Fi access points all over the stadium. When you're sitting in your seat at the game, it doesn't matter what part of the stadium you're in, you're never more than 10 feet away from a Wi-Fi access point.
Wow.
And it's a considerable investment that they've made. And the reason that this matters is we have all gotten very used to being able to have our phones be part of whatever we do. And that's also, in turn, because they have all this bandwidth, essentially, and all this connectivity capability, they also decided that they would take the opportunity to have an app be part of the stadium-going experience. And so what that means in this particular instance on Sunday is that if you go to the Super Bowl, you can download an app that will basically enable you to sort of change the way that you think about going to a football game. So instead of getting online for a beer and waiting, 5, 10, 20 minutes to go at halftime, you can just order it from your seat and someone's going to bring it to you. If you think, I'd like to get a sweater or a hat to remember this by, you can order it right from your seat and pick it up on your way out. If you're, sitting there and don't feel sufficiently excited by what's going on around you during the commercial break, you can go, I'm going to watch those Super Bowl commercials that everyone likes so much, and you can watch them in the same order that, people at home will see them from their couches.
Well,
and
one of the things I think that's so interesting about this is over the past couple of years, you've seen the trends or the talk, I should say, of people making stadiums that are more TV friendly, right? Like smaller, maybe a little more compact, but also just really maximized to sort of enhance the experience of the person watching at home. Because especially for football, if we're being honest, it's a lot better to watch on TV than in person. And so the fact that they're sort of like sweetening the deal for people who are going to be actually attending the games, I think is really, really cool. I'm not a person who goes to football games, but a lot of it is because of the very reasons that they're trying to solve here.
Yeah, absolutely. As you point out, football, I think of all of the major North American sports, is the game that's best suited for television, because the reality is that in a football game, there's a lot of downtime. Every time a play ends, usually it involves a bunch of people piled up on top of each other, and they have to kind of disentangle, get lined up again. If there's a first down, they have to set the chains again. Maybe they huddle, bring people in and out. And if you're watching on television, the director can kind of guide you through that and maybe give you a close-up of the coach, maybe the quarterback, maybe, they cut into a touchdown that was scored in another game. But if you're in the stands, you're just in the stands, and that means downtime for a lot of people that aren't watching every spare detail that happens on the field. And in this day and age, when people have a couple of spare moments, we sort of, on instinct, just look down at our phones. And that's why, for a very long time, NFL owners have all known that this is something that they have to do, because NFL stadiums are only getting more expensive. And the reality is, too, is that NFL stadiums are sort of a peculiar beast. If you build a basketball arena, for example, you've got a lot more games, and you can have dozens or maybe even hundreds of events in there every year. But football stadiums, even the smaller ones that you alluded to, are just a little too big and a little too unwieldy. At Levi's Stadium, which is, again, where the game is going to be played on Sunday, they only had 20 events in there in all of 2015, and 10 of those were NFL games.
Oh, wow.
So, you really need to make sure that big building, this multi-billion-dollar
Yeah.
investment, is in fact, an enticing experience for people that do wind up showing up on those handful of days every year.
All right, good stuff from Max Willens. He is a staff writer at International Business Times. Thanks so much for joining us, Max. I really appreciate it. Follow him on Twitter at Max Willens. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press. Very quick break. We'll be right back.
On your radio, on TV.
Today, in this country, we are having a conversation about police violence, the killing of black men, and what all that means. It is sad that this is happening and that every day there's a new incident to cause us to keep thinking about it and talking about it. But it is extraordinary that the American people are having to deal with this every day, whether you're watching CNN or MSNBC, Fox, or ABC News. All the news channels are talking about police violence and what does that mean against black people. Many people probably look at that, certainly have looked at it in the past, and they have said that these poor black men are doing bad things, and that's why they are ending up in confrontations with police without any understanding of their lives of these poor black young men. Part of what has been going on for decades is that poor black people live in communities that suffer from hyper-surveillance of the police. The police are more likely to be in their communities. The police are more likely to arrest them. The police are more likely to stop them even if they're not doing anything. And that is what is so hard for the American people to believe, that you would get stopped and searched and arrested by the police and not doing anything. But this is starting to come out as people are telling the stories over and over again. But this has been the condition, this hyper-surveillance by police, making it more likely for people to get a record, to be known by the police, and then once they get in the system, it is almost impossible to get out because of the whole system of being on parole and missing an appointment or fraternizing with a person who has a criminal record, getting you right back in the jail, and then going back again and again and again. This is coming to be seen by the American people in a way that it has never been seen before. But why are people in these communities in the first place? That's getting peeled away. People are there because of housing discrimination. They are there because this is the only place where affordable housing can be found. They are there because that's where their families live, and people are drawn to being in communities where they are comfortable. The combination keeps people in these low-income communities where they are an easy target for hyper-surveillance and then everything that comes from it. And so as we think about these issues, we have to understand that while you as an individual in this society, as a white individual, you may not carry personal racism, but that does not keep the system from operating in a racist way.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today while Bill is out talking about his new book, Buyer's Remorse. He'll be back in tomorrow. He's doing a little book promotion. So don't worry, I'm holding down the fort while he's gone. And luckily, I am joined by one of the hardest working men in the political news business, Jake Tapper from CNN, host of The Lead, 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, and host of State of the Union, 9 a.m. and noon on Sundays. Hey, Jake, thanks for joining me, man.
Of course, Peter. How you doing?
I'm well. So tell me real quick, what do you have cooking this weekend?
Well, obviously, we're going to be doing the show from New Hampshire. I'll actually be doing The Lead from New Hampshire tomorrow as well. And we're working on guests right now. I have to tell you, we're just coordinating schedules. I'm not sure what we're allowed to announce and what we're not allowed to announce. But obviously, everyone is in New Hampshire this weekend, both Democrats, all the Republicans, and we'll be grabbing at least 2 or 3 of them. And I'll have more on that when I'm allowed to announce it.
Cool. It's going to be really exciting to see sort of how this all plays out and whether or not Bernie can carry some of that momentum into New Hampshire and whether or not the sort of Donald Trump social experiment of can he turn the sort of the national conversation into votes, right?
Yeah, no, it's going to be really interesting. I mean, I think it's clear that Sanders is favored there and has been up in the polls. The people of New Hampshire have known Bernie Sanders for a long, long time because he's from neighboring Vermont. But obviously New Hampshire is also a state where Hillary Clinton won in 2008 and a state that helped Bill Clinton in his presidential race by putting him in second place even after the scandal back in '92. He called himself the comeback kid. So it is a fierce competition. And the Republican side, there is this, as you know, brawl going on, not just between Donald Trump and Ted Cruz, Trump now accusing Cruz of fraud in Iowa, but also for the battle for the establishment lane, quote unquote, the Rubio and Kasich and Christie and Jeb, and the fight to become the alternative to Cruz and Trump is really, really heating up.
Yeah, well, no matter what, the game will change after New Hampshire, and we love watching it with you, Jake Tapper. 4 p.m. weekdays on The Lead on CNN, and 9 a.m. And noon at State of the Union, all on CNN. Thanks, Jake. Really appreciate it, bud.
Thanks, Peter. Bye-bye.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Valentine's Day is next week, and
Across from me at the kitchen table, my mother smiles over red wine that she drinks out of a measuring glass. She says she doesn't deprive herself, but I've learned to find nuance in every movement of her fork, in every crinkle in her brow as she offers me the uneaten pieces on her plate. I've realized she only eats dinner when I suggest it. I wonder what she does when I'm not there to do so. Maybe this is why my house feels bigger each time I return. It's proportional. As she shrinks, the space around her seems increasingly vast. She wanes while my father waxes. His stomach has grown round with wine, late nights, oysters, poetry, a new girlfriend who was overweight as a teenager, but my dad reports now she's crazy about fruit. It was the same with his parents. As my grandmother became frail and angular, her husband swelled to red, round cheeks, rotund stomach, and I wonder if my lineage is one of women shrinking, making space for the entrance of men into their lives, not knowing how to fill it back up once they leave. I have been taught accommodation. My brother never thinks before he speaks. I have been taught to filter. How can anyone have a relationship to food, he asks, laughing, as I eat the black bean soup I chose for its lack of carbs. I want to say we come from difference, Jonas. You have been taught to grow out. I have been taught to grow in. You learn from our father how to commit, how to produce, to roll each thought off your tongue with confidence. You used to lose your voice every other week from shouting so much. I learned to absorb. I took lessons from our mother in creating space around myself. I learned to read the knots in her forehead while the guys went out for oysters. And I never meant to replicate her, but spend enough time sitting across from someone and you pick up their habits. That's why women in my family have been shrinking for decades. We all learned it from each other, the way each generation taught the next how to knit, weaving silence in between the threads, which I can still feel as I walk through this ever-growing house. Skin itching, picking up all the habits my mother has unwittingly dropped, like bits of crumpled paper from her pocket on her countless trips, from bedroom to kitchen to bedroom again. Nights I hear her creep down to eat plain yogurt in the dark, a fugitive stealing calories to which she does not feel entitled. Deciding how many lights is too many, how much space she deserves to occupy. Watching the struggle, I either mimic or hate her, and I don't want to do either anymore, but the burden of this house has followed me across the country. I asked 5 questions in genetics class today, and all of them started with the word sorry. I don't know the capstone requirements. I don't know the capstone requirements for the sociology major because I spent the whole meeting deciding whether or not I could have another piece of pizza. A circular obsession I never wanted, but inheritance is accidental. Still staring at me with wine-soaked lips from across the kitchen table.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To not look the other way. It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
Yes, it is The Bill Press Show, 33 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. Thank you all so very much for tuning in. Bill is out doing that book promotion, so you're stuck with me for like another half hour, and then Bill is back tomorrow. So I think we can make it. As I've said before, when I fill in, I like to bring in lots of smart and good and wonderful people to help carry the show, not unlike the way that a donut fills an empty, vacuous hole with wonderful things. That's sort of the theme from when I host the show. So I've done exactly that with our next guest, Pema Levy. She's a politics reporter for Mother Jones. You can follow her on Twitter at Pema Levy, P-E-M-A-L-E-V-Y. Good morning, Pema.
Good morning.
Thanks so much for coming in.
Yeah.
So you're just back from Iowa.
Yes.
How was Iowa? Was it wonderful?
It was pretty good. It was
Yeah.
pretty good. Yeah, as I was just saying, it's a bigger state than I thought. So I think I drove about 1,000 miles to cover these folks.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good.
It's
It was
fascinating, I think, to get in there and see the process and all that. It's something I've never done, but we've talked to a lot of reporters who were out there, and it's just kind of like, to see it actually happen is fascinating, I think.
Yeah, it totally is. And to talk to the voters is pretty fascinating because, they get to be the first ones to vote. And, and that's pretty funny.
And Iowa, I mean, it had a big impact, right? I mean, it definitely shook up the race. Not only did Donald Trump not win, Ted Cruz was able to pull that off, but it also signaled the end of the road for a couple of candidates. Martin O'Malley got out, Rand Paul dropped out, Rick Santorum dropped out. Do any of these have any major impact on the race moving forward?
I don't think so because their followings were small enough that it's not like if Ben Carson got out, for example, he does seem to have enough of a following in New Hampshire and in Iowa and such that would have put a lot of voters up for grabs.
Yeah.
These less so. But it is interesting, and I think Rand Paul, you could argue that there's a significance there because he does have a pretty loyal following, at least among some young libertarian types who were sort of willing to, vote for him even though they knew he wasn't going to win, and now they, in theory, would be looking for another Republican who can appeal to the sort of libertarian beliefs they have.
The other thing about Rand Paul is, not that long ago, he said that he was going to sort of make it his personal mission to make sure that Donald Trump didn't win. And, like, if any other candidate said that, I would be like, yeah, whatever. But I think Rand Paul might actually, like, he might really make it his life's goal to, like, really mess up Donald Trump's chance of being president. And I'd be a little scared of that. Rand Paul seems like he could make it happen. Right? Like, he's a little crazy, a little bit.
He's so, I find him so fascinating.
I do too. I really do. He's an intense guy.
Oh yeah, I mean he's really intense. He really has these beliefs. He's kind of an introvert, I think. Mm-hmm. He's kind of like a fascinating guy for a politician. Like he didn't seem to love going to any sort of functions or events or the schmoozing that you do or anything. But he really wanted to win, which I think is a little bit tough. It turns out.
Yeah.
But he has a tough Senate race back in Kentucky.
He sure does.
That he's facing at the same time. So I think maybe that might have had something to do with him dropping out at this point.
Yeah. And we also say farewell to Rick Santorum, who won Iowa 4 years ago, but not so lucky this time. I thought it was interesting that not that I want to put too much emphasis on this, right? Like, because Rick Santorum didn't matter when he was running. He certainly doesn't matter now that he's out. But I think it's interesting that he endorsed Marco Rubio. Rick Santorum, very profoundly evangelical man. He's a very religious man. And I think of all the candidates that are out there that have really doubled down on the evangelical vote, there's Ted Cruz, who also who has a lead over Marco Rubio. Why wouldn't Rick Santorum endorse Ted Cruz over Marco Rubio?
Yeah, well, my understanding is he said he thought that Marco Rubio would have a better chance against Hillary Clinton. So it's possible that he's being pragmatic and sort of just really not wanting Hillary Clinton to win, and so he's going with the guy he thinks is more electable. And the other thing is that, I think this has somewhat flown under the radar in D.C., but Marco Rubio has not exactly seeded the evangelical vote. He really does appeal to people's religion and to their faith, and he talks about the Bible a lot when he's asked about his faith. And, people on the trail ask him about it. Church groups come to see him, at least in Iowa they were. So, he doesn't play it up as much in D.C. And, he certainly is not playing it up the way Ted Cruz is, where Ted Cruz has, like, a busload of pastors following around everywhere. Not really, but kind of.
Kind of.
But kind of. That's kind of the thrust. I had one voter in Iowa tell me that they thought that Ted Cruz was sort of laying it on too thick with their religion, but Rubio was not exactly just sort of putting up his hands and saying, "Okay, you take the evangelicals." Yeah. So I can see that. So
while you were in Iowa, did you see any evidence of Ted Cruz stealing the election from Donald Trump, as Donald Trump claims? He said that Ted Cruz essentially stole the election in Iowa. What's his basis for that? Is there any basis for that in reality?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I didn't think
so. But I think, I think that Ted Cruz ran a really good campaign. That does not mean that you're not going to see dirty tactics coming out of the Ted Cruz campaign. It's run by some folks who are win at any cost kind of guys. And they'll have dirty tricks up their sleeves, even when they're ahead. I think that they knew they were going to win, and they still, pulled some tricks at the end just to make sure, even though I think they knew that they had it anyways.
I like a good political dirty trick, frankly. Like, I kind of live for them, Like, obviously there are some that maybe go a little too far, but
sure.
Like, I think it's good hustle, If you're not cheating, you're not trying. A little bit, right? But to me, I think this was a really fascinating sort of study of what, you've got the old school methods of organization, getting your vote out, getting your volunteers on the ground, all that stuff, right? Which Ted Cruz did and maintained that was going to deliver him a victory. And then you've got a guy like Donald Trump, where you had a lot of people, a lot of enthusiasm, and a lot of people saying they were going to vote for Trump, who, when it really came down to it, maybe didn't vote for Donald Trump. So, what does that mean moving forward? Because I still sort of maintain that the Iowa caucus situation is just a little too weird for Donald Trump supporters. And by no stretch of the imagination do you have to win Iowa to to be the
Right.
nominee, right?
Usually
So-
you don't when it comes to Republicans.
Right, or we'd have President Gephardt, President Rick Santorum.
Right. Mike Huckabee.
So, will that change for Trump in the future? Will that will he be able to translate some of these polls into votes?
I think it's a really interesting question. I think that Iowa was fascinating because you had that same debate playing out on both sides. And on both sides, the organizational candidate, the one who put in a lot of work in the ground game, ultimately won. But Cruz's one was obviously much more decisive.
Yeah.
The caucuses are weird. The weird thing about it is you got to show up at 7 p.m. It's like you can't just go at some point during the day. It's much more of an intimidating process. So I do think it's possible. I think that in a lot of ways, Iowa was always the hardest state for Trump. And so I think you can sort of write that off and expect him to do really well in New Hampshire. At the same time, it does feel like folks might have ultimately pulled the trigger for Rubio in the end.
Yeah.
Sort of saying like, well, he's conservative, but he also might be more electable, or, sort of having second thoughts at the last minute there. So, I mean, we'll know really soon.
Yeah. What does it mean? I don't want to do that. Like, what does this mean
It's
to
okay.
2016?
I know. So
okay.
it's okay.
Yeah. Please.
Just
what will it mean? I guess if Donald Trump is able to pull out a win in New Hampshire, how does that change the race? Because I had said if he wins Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, it's over, right? For Donald Trump would be the nominee, but he didn't do it in Iowa. What does it mean if he wins in New Hampshire? Does that sort of reset everything, or is it just kind of business as usual? We're just going to keep plotting forward, and it's still a 3-man race.
I think it depends on by how much he wins, because he's polling insanely far ahead. I think he has 30% at this point, and no one else comes even close to that. So I think if he wins by 30 points or something like that, if he keeps up with his polling, I think that's pretty big for him.
Yeah.
And I think he really goes into South Carolina with some momentum. If he wins, but it's only by 3 points, if he really underperforms his polling, then I think the media sort of goes, oh, he's going down. People don't really, even if he wins New Hampshire, I think the narrative would become, oh, he's not as all that he's hyped up to be.
Yeah.
And so I think that the margins would actually, and if that's fair or not, I
can
think
lose by winning.
Yeah, I think sometimes the spin is kind of unfair to the person that actually won.
Yeah,
but
it's a politics game, man.
Yeah,
it's a trip.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break. We've got a lot more things to talk about with Pema Levy, politics reporter for Mother Jones, in studio with us. Follow her on Twitter at Pema Levy. You can follow the show on Twitter at BP Show. You can follow me on Twitter at Peter Ogburn, but follow the other two first. You don't want to follow me before.
Follow me.
We'll be right back. Very quick break.
Follow us.
On opening body bags after Typhoon Haiyan. I can only imagine it like unearthing a scab. Zipper breaks open one by one. Mothers trying to dig through themselves an umbilical cord to lend life to a limp ghost. There is not enough relief here to hide the scent of what this child used to be. The coconut trees are not high enough to see over the inside out that was made here. Bags do not have the honor of being called burial plots. Churches ain't supposed to be mausoleums. Tacloban was morphed into ground zero. And I watch this while it snows in Madison, Wisconsin, a place where it's easier to live as a rodent than it is to be a colored person. This place drowns my people in a different way. I inhabit both places like Jigsaw corpse trying to find itself whole. These brown boys in Tacloban aren't my cousins, but I want to carry them to safety. These brown girls in Tacloban aren't my daughters, but I want to tell them they're still growing after this choking, but I'm still an ocean away, a language farther from root, a skin tone lighter than the sand, born there, raised here, home nowhere. To watch this storm is a sorry excuse for mourning. It is to need the sun desperately. It is to realize that your body is in one country while your grief is in another. To look at your house walk to a river and come back to no house is to be Filipino. To look at your motherland hurting from a TV screen is to be Filipino American. To watch my islands through the blue eyes of Anderson Cooper is the most American I have ever felt. But I still cry for them. And I still pray for them because God tried to make them Atlantis before they were ready to be a myth just yet, because rebuilding is the Filipinos' most intrinsic muscle memory, but most painful trauma, because relief is just a word whose Tagalog translation I don't even know, because this poem is all I can give for my country, bleeding in salt water. Hail Mary, full of grace. The Lord keeps trying to drown us. Hallowed be thy bodies. Thy kingdom come down in waves and winds on earth as it is destroyed. Take us this day our daily rations and forgive those who have tried to kill us as we forgive those who have tried to kill us. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us whose skin has always meant sin now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
I think the next president needs to be a lot quieter, but send a signal that we're prepared to act in the national security interests of this country to get back in the business of creating a more peaceful world. Please clap.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, Jeb. Good job, Jeb. Good job, Jebby. Please clap. Please clap, says the future president of the United States. Oh, my God. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. He's going to be back tomorrow. He's out doing that book promotion. I'm joined by Pima Levy, politics reporter for Mother Jones. Hello, Pima.
Hey.
We got one more segment here. Let's take a quick call. Let's go to Jake in Eureka, California. Hello, Jake.
Hi. I'd like to ask your opinion of when Jeb Bush drops out of the race, and who do you believe Bush will endorse? Will he endorse Rubio or somebody else?
That's a good question. I actually, my hot take on this is that Jeb doesn't get out until like he loses Florida. I think it's going to be something like that. It's going to be an ugly loss and an ugly exit for Jeb, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that I've read stuff, that there's a lot of pressure for him to drop out if he doesn't win New Hampshire. I think he stays in through Nevada. I think he has a really strong organization in Nevada, and Nevada's all about turning out like 5 people because it's a tiny caucus state. Yeah. And he has so much money.
It's the money thing that keeps him
And I think he's so pissed at Rubio.
Yeah.
To be honest, I almost think he might not endorse.
I think that's right.
I think he would maybe endorse Rubio begrudgingly later on.
I don't think he endorses. I mean, he has. It's now become so clear how much he hates Rubio. There's no way he endorses Trump. There's no way he endorses Cruz.
And I do want to say, for all of the Jeb Bush, his campaign is in a death spiral talk. I think it's please clap. It's mostly true, but he is actually currently in second place in New Hampshire. So, I don't think, I honestly don't think it'll hold. I don't think he'll come in second, but I don't think it will be the 2% he got in Iowa. I don't think it'll be the so low that, he'll be...
He's embarrassed out of the race.
Quite yet.
But, what's funny to me is, and this is something we've talked about a lot on the show, is the establishment always wins. Right? We've seen it in the past. None of the Republicans wanted Mitt Romney, and they got Mitt Romney, right? The McCain thing is the same way, right? None of the Republicans really wanted McCain. They got McCain the time before that. So will it actually hold that someone like Trump or Cruz can get the nomination? I don't know. I think it's more likely now than ever before, but if they do go establishment, do they go Cruz or do they go Bush? And I don't think Jeb is dead yet. I think you're right. I think the money, the organization, the sort of establishment behind him, I think that he stays in for a little bit longer.
Yeah. I give him to the end of the month.
Oh.
I mean, hey, maybe he comes in second in New Hampshire,
maybe
second in South Carolina, and then wins Nevada.
I don't think he gets out gracefully, though. I don't think he gets out and just says, "Hey, I can see the writing on the wall here. I'm getting out." I think he just rides it to the absolute end until his campaign bus slams into the wall, and he's like, "Okay, I get it now. You guys don't want me." That's how I see it happening.
Yeah,
That's how I see it happening.
I don't know if it'll go that far. I do think that there's I think there's the Jeb Bush that really wants to win and has all this money and put on all this work, and then there's Jeb Bush that just does not like to campaign and wants to go home.
Yeah,
so I think there's an internal struggle every morning
That's
when
a
he
good
gets
point.
out of bed.
One other thing I want to follow back. Actually, we talked about this, about the whole Donald Trump accusing Ted Cruz of stealing the elections. We were talking about this off the air, and I was saying I didn't know if this is the best look for Donald Trump, because I think that on election night he looked pretty good after he lost. Right, he was conciliatory. He congratulated Ted Cruz. He talked about his good friend Mike Huckabee for some weird reason. But Trump looked like a candidate that knew how to lose and move on to New Hampshire. And I thought that if he maybe took that message of, we're going to do well in New Hampshire. We had a little setback in Iowa, but I'm here. I'm ready to fight for the people of New Hampshire, and here's why I want to be president. I thought that might be a good look. But instead, he's accusing Ted Cruz of stealing the election.
Right.
With no real basis for that.
Right. But I think that's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I think for other politicians, being conciliatory and sort of, rallying people behind what you're going to do for them is, what you're supposed to do.
It's normal.
Right.
Yeah.
But Donald Trump is not normal. And I think, as I was saying, Donald Trump, when you ask him about his candidacy, he immediately says, I'm a winner. I'm going to win. I look at the polls. He starts citing poll numbers. And so now all of a sudden he has a loss, an unexpected loss. And so I think the only way to recover from that and still be bombastic Donald Trump, whose followers are still really think he's going to win and that he's a winner, is to maintain that you still are the winner and that someone just happened to have stolen it from you. And then his supporters now have a chance to take it back from the guy that stole it the first time.
Really, really good point, actually. That's a really good point, especially when you consider the Trump vote. A lot of it is so based in anger and frustration. And I think that could totally work in his favor. That's a smart point, Pema. Which is why you're here, because you're so smart on all things politics.
Yeah, it's
Pema
incredible.
Levy, politics reporter for Mother Jones. Really and truly, go follow her on Twitter at Pema Levy, Pemalevy, and read her good work at Mother Jones. Thank you for coming in, Pema.
Thanks for having me.
We'll talk to you again soon. All right, very, very, very quick break, and then a very quick segment when we come back. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press. Stay tuned.
On your radio.
For my 6th birthday, my grandpa gave me a Rubik's Cube. I'll always be able to remember its edges, hold it in my hands, heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I remember him telling me about it. How Rubik's Cube has 43 quintillion, 252 quadrillion, 3 trillion, 274 billion, 489,856,000 possibilities. He told me it can be really confusing sometimes. But to look at the center squares as a reminder of what color each side should be. Shift. We're celebrating his 50th wedding anniversary. He and Grandma are dancing a dance that only fragile legs and wrinkled hands know how to. That type of happiness took him 70 years to earn. The white side of the cube is solved. Shift. He tells me about how he met Grandma. His college friends had a sunset picnic. She was there, as beautiful as an unsolved puzzle. She was a red-headed scramble on an orange tile sky. Shift. The walls of the hospital are blue. The nurses explain that his memories had become jumbled. Strangers in family portraits, pictures with mismatched faces. Alzheimer's has made his mind into a Rubik's Cube. Shift. He's a highway patrolman. His car is white. No, it's blue. He worked there for 30 years. Some nights he still does. Time is a complicated algorithm. Shift. The pills he holds are yellow and red and green. The weight of their color causes his hand to drop. I try to shift his tiles back into place, but people don't have center squares. His mind is a hospital bed divided by 0. Shift, my sister's wedding is white, but he doesn't know why. Shift, World War II is every color. The South Pacific is blue. The islands are green. There is so much red. Shift, grandpa, table, cube, name, scramble, California, guitar, grapefruit highway, wedding bell, war, stick shift rifles, South Pacific mirrors, shift, 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 shift. The temperature of his hands is blue. Death is colorless. I will always remember his edges. Hold him in my hands, heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I was unable to attend his funeral. I never found out the algorithm to solve him. A Rubik's Cube has over 43 quintillion possibilities. A casket only has one.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show. By the way, do you
want to tell our listeners how much trauma you've caused me this morning?
I give Jamie so much grief off the air, and the reality is, Jamie is like the greatest producer we've ever had on this show. But I love to watch him get angry and frustrated when I talk smack about him. But Jamie is the greatest, and I rib him so much off air. It's pathetic.
And this good producer is going to tell you we're running out of time here.
Okay, thank you very much for producing. I want to play this clip, though, because Jamie grabbed this clip. The National Prayer Breakfast is happening, like, right now, and Paul Ryan just subtweeted our guy, Igor Volsky, in real life.
I've noticed a growing impatience, though, with prayer in our culture these days. You see it in the papers, or you see it on Twitter. When people say we're praying for someone or something, the attitude in some quarters these days is don't just pray, do something about it. Thing is, when you are praying, you are doing something about it.
Absolutely directly at Igor, whose whole Twitter campaign was, don't just send thoughts and prayers to the victims of gun violence, get some legislation done and do something. What a dumb statement by Paul Ryan. That's a dumb statement. I'm sure we'll talk about that more next, or tomorrow on the Bill Press Show. Tune in.
This is the Bill Press Show.